Tyson.
How are you?
Oh, I'm exhausted, but I'm great.
It's episode 51. Happy 51st
Oh my God, happy-
episode.
Oh, cheers, buddy.
We're
happy.
happy. Cheers to that. Cheers to 51 episodes.
51 episodes.
So we were going to celebrate our 50th, but then we decided, no.
Yeah, Nick had to move.
Nick had to move
house, which was an ordeal in itself.
And we didn't plan ahead with our podcast dates to make sure that we somehow would be able to avoid that in our 50th episode.
But that's okay.
So we've made our 51st episode.
Awesome.
An awesome one.
An awesome one. Well, one.
Well, look, we're talking about 2013's Man of Steel.
We are. Tyson's whispering.
So I'm very
little man's upstairs.
Yeah, we got a baby.
We got a
so we're
little man
going to keep a bit of a lid on it.
But Nick is, he's going to try not to laugh too hard, but I doubt that that's going to happen.
Yeah, so with this, we're treating this as our birthday celebration,
Exactly.
basically. So we're going to, for each of the milestone episodes,
because of who Tyson and I are, I idolise Superman.
Yes, so we've decided for each of our milestone episodes, we're going to be tackling a different Superman film.
Yes.
And so for this one, I don't know why we chose this first. We probably should have gone with one we really liked.
No, I like that we get the worst one out of the way. I would rather...
The worst?
Yes, I would rather watch A Quest for Peace than this abomination, but we'll get to that later.
I don't think I can agree with you there, but that'll be a discussion.
Look, it's been a while for A Quest for Peace.
Yeah, it's no good.
Everyone loves Nuclear Man, I'm sure they do.
Nuclear Man.
Yeah.
With Gene Hackman's voice.
Oh, that's right.
Horribly dubbing over it.
Dubbed over. That poor guy, I know for a fact that he did one movie after that, and that was it. He died a horrible death.
Nuclear Man.
His career.
I thought you meant Gene Hackman.
No, not Gene.
I think he was around for a little while, Gene Hackman.
Sure he was
did
fine.
some good work.
I'm pretty sure he's still alive.
Well, anyway, welcome to the show. It's Nick, Tys and Videotape, everybody.
Hey, gang.
We're very excited to have you here listening to us. There are many, many different ways that you can find us, and we're going to go into a bit of detail at the end of the show, but just as a quick, run around. If you found us on iTunes, that's awesome. Maybe on Facebook, maybe on YouTube, maybe on whatever you listen to your podcasts on.
That's totally true.
If you search Nick, Tys and Videotape, you'll find us anywhere.
Into Google. I tried it the other day. I was like, oh, wow, really?
Yeah, it comes up.
Yeah, it comes up.
Amazingly.
Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah.
But before we do any of that tomfoolery,
shall we
talk some trailers, I think.
Let's talk some trailers. All right.
Everybody's talking trailers. Okay.
Trailer. All right. What do we... All right. Well, let me go.
There wasn't
first.
much this week.
No, there wasn't a lot.
But there was one worth talking... Like, really, definitely worth talking about.
Yeah?
That one. And it's, I think, the one that you brought up before.
Oh, okay. I do. Well, finally, we got an Incredibles 2 trailer.
We did.
Finally. And, cheers.
Cheers.
And it was...
Fine.
It was fine. It wasn't... We
fine.
built it up way too much. That's the thing. Like, I wanted... Oh, wow, awesome. You remember when you saw the first... was it 2001 Spider-Man trailer? Do you remember seeing that for the first time?
Yeah, I do remember that.
That was like, oh my God!
And that was like a little mini movie.
Yeah.
And, it had
and even the...
weird shots that didn't look like a trailer. Looked like...
It was like they cut it for the trailer, which we love.
I do like
but that wasn't in it. But Incredibles 2... you get a bit of a... I kind of like where the trailer went story-wise.
Yeah, I think it's
because
interesting
it's not
enough.
about Mr. Incredible this time. It's about Elastigirl.
Well, I think the as far as the superheroing goes, it's about Elastigirl. But
which
I think the focus is going to be on
Mr. Incredible dealing with Mr. Mum. Do you remember that?
Oh, Mr. Mum.
I've never seen it. I just remembered it at the video
Michael
store.
Keaton, isn't it? Yeah, I've definitely seen that.
But yeah, he's from what we get from the trailer, Elastigirl has gone off because they're trying to bring superheroes back, and they kind of face her onto
a little vague.
A bit vague.
What's happening,
but I like that. That's cool. Pardon me. And they kind of talk to a guy who's a little bit of a publicist and get her in the front lines and save it. And she's kind of like, "Well, yeah, Elastigirl, blah blah blah." And then
isn't that what happened in the first one? I haven't seen it for a while.
No.
As far as supers being illegal.
Yeah, supers was still legal.
So them coming out at the end of the first one, it hasn't changed anything.
I don't think so. I think during the number 2 we see, because that was the whole publicist thing, we want to bring superheroes back. Well, that's the vibe that I got from it. We're going to bring superheroes back, and we need someone to do that. Mr. Incredible, we don't want you. We want Elastigirl because she's cool, she's hip, she's female.
Sure.
Bring it on.
Sure.
She's rad.
So no one cared that they saved the world.
I don't. I don't think.
And they still went, but okay.
But okay, you're still banned because you caused that guy to have he was. Well, I love it. He was committing suicide, and Mr. Incredible saved him. Yeah. No. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, from that we see Mr. Incredible deal with the day-to-day of running a family, which, from a personal, just my view of it, and I'm not even doing the major part. My wife is doing the major part, and I have a whole new respect for single mums in general, anyone who has more than one child.
Fools.
Good Lord, you have the biggest fucking job in the world, and you are not getting paid for it. Your reward is if your child kisses you.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But yeah, we
see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we see Mr. Incredible deal with this shit, and it looks good. It looks a bit different.
Yeah,
I want a bit more of the Incredible kids growing up and dealing with powers and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted.
Yeah, it's light on with plot stuff, which I think is fine.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to. Like, we talk about this in a lot of our trailer stuff. We don't need to see all of the plot.
Yeah.
The mood and the vibe feels a little
different.
A little underdone though for me. I was a bit kind of like, yeah, okay, it's just kind of happening. It's just I'm not sure. Like, some of the comedic stuff works, and some of it I thought landed a bit flat. And, I don't know. It
wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't the Incredibles 2 trailer that we wanted. I think. Well, it wasn't what I wanted.
Well, I think the first one. I'll have to go back and watch the first trailer for the first one and see if it was maybe similar.
Yeah, good point.
Because there are a lot of stakes
in the first film.
Like,
that's
the
why
stakes are really high.
Yeah.
And we have no sense of what they are in this from this trailer. We've just seen some fun kind of fooling around with the parent, with Mr. Incredible and the baby, and you can see him progressively get more dishevelled as he goes,
and tired and sleep deprived.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah,
and obviously there will be supering happening. It's an Incredibles movie.
Yeah.
I would have liked just a fraction more of that.
We didn't get an action. So what I thought about while I was watching this, because I listened to, last week's episode.
Oh yeah.
Comparing it to a Mission Impossible trailer, there was no action sequences.
No, zero.
Zero.
There was a little gag at the start with the Underminer.
But that's it. Like, that wasn't even anything.
No.
And you kind of want a little bit of that in an Incredibles trailer.
You just want a little kind of maybe some flashes of some things so you can see just maybe what scenarios they're in, and
what was that action piece? Yeah, things like that.
I don't know, like that. We were paying out on that Mission Impossible trailer a little bit because it could be a trailer for, like, it could be anything really.
It could be.
It could be Tom Cruise's stunt reel, really. But those little moments here and there of him just diving over something or a bike, they just kind of build a bit of adrenaline and a bit of a kind of a sense of excitement. So I was just a little kind of just like, okay, cool. That was it.
I went back and watched that Mission Impossible trailer. I'm really excited now. That song, I've listened to Imagine Dragons, that song on repeat for the last week. I don't know why. I don't know. It's a song by Imagine Dragons. The song in the thing. I was like, oh my God.
No attention to the song whatsoever. I'll have to, especially now that it's Imagine Dragons, my favourite band.
Oh, is it?
No,
it
not
totally
at all.
is.
No.
I know you're a Bieber Fever kind of guy.
Who are these people?
I don't know.
What kind of name is that? Imagine I'm doing what?
It's a band. What's wrong with Imagine Dragons?
No, fair enough.
Yeah. What did you watch, Tys?
Well, I just wanted to briefly mention, because there was another trailer for Rampage.
Oh, you watched that one?
And I did watch that one.
I didn't watch that.
And
was it good?
I'm on board for Rampage.
Yeah. It's so your film.
I don't know how it's happened.
A nice piece of a little bit of a trashy film.
It's going to be really trashy fun.
Yeah.
And every little bit of it I see builds that a little bit more for me. I can't remember what he calls the monkey. George? Is it George? I feel like that's too obvious.
No, I think it is George.
It is George?
Remembering from the video game, I think it's George.
Like, I feel like the relationship between them is going to be like really quite sweet. That's what it seems like it's going to be going for.
Yeah.
And
so you think? Sorry, keep going.
No. There's elements like the fucking werewolf has wings and busts through a big fucking high-rise building. Just crashes through it. And stuff like I think it's going all out, and I think this is what we were talking about when I was mentioning about leaning into the silliness.
Oh, okay.
Like, you can have a really good movie if you just embrace it and lean into it.
Yes.
And I feel like Rampage might be leaning into it because they're just
all the right kinds of
all the
leading
right
into,
kinds.
Yeah.
They've got The Rock just kind of cracking a few wires here and there,
Sure.
like just doing his thing, being
Yeah.
charming as fuck. And then when he has to, step up for the action stuff, we know he can do that.
That's true.
The CGI looks pretty iffy,
But that's okay. Like,
they've got time to figure that out. It's fine.
Exactly. I like that they do that. Chuck in some CG that's not done, so when everyone gets, oh, look how crappy this is, and then the full trailer, or when the movie comes out, they go, see, Thanos does look fine.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm a sucker for if you put if you make me sympathise for an animal.
It's the pet thing, isn't it?
I knew massively.
You do know at the end of this thing that The Rock is literally going to go up to George and go, buddy, the sun's getting real low.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. You're going to have that.
Yeah. And this is the thing. I'm almost more interested to see what's going to happen at the end between those two, because even if they win the day, what are they going to do with George? He's turned into a giant,
massive monkey
ape. What are they going to do with him?
Maybe he goes on an island by himself and he lives on the island.
I hope so.
I'm sure New Zealand or Tasmania won't mind having him.
I hope he doesn't die. I don't think I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, look, the percentage is high.
It is high, isn't it? God damn it. I don't want him to do that.
I know.
I want him to fight side by side and win the day, and him be rewarded for it. He's going to sacrifice himself to save The Rock.
He is.
Of course.
I love that you know what's going to happen. Of course you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
But I'm on board, man.
I know, yeah, fair deal. I totally agree with you. That's why I think Jumanji has done the same thing. I haven't seen Jumanji the new one, but I think that has tapped into the silliness of a movie that's going to be slightly trashy yet a bit of fun.
Well, they seem to have really kind of hit the sweet spot with that, because it's making shit tons of money, and everyone seems to
Everyone's
like it.
Yeah, exactly.
It hasn't gotten much in the way of negative.
Yeah, even
press.
Friends who love the original have gone, no, this is another beast. This is fine. I don't mind this.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing that at some point in my life.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Oh well. Rampage. Bring it on.
I'm sad now. Thinking about George.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This is totally off topic.
No, go for
Have
it.
you seen Marley and Me?
No.
Okay.
No, I've been warned not to.
I think you should. I think we should maybe do that.
Maybe.
Make a full episode of it.
Because
Because I've never seen it. And I know everyone knows what happens. It's like watching the Titanic. You know it's going to sink. But yeah. Okay.
Sometimes animal, pet deaths affect me more than
human deaths. Yeah.
I'd say most times.
Yeah. A friend of mine who's a very good, Jerry, who's a friend of the podcast, he hasn't watched the Planet of the Apes movies because of that. And I said, you know that they're not real apes. He's like, yeah, but there's going to be some people hurting animals.
There's definitely apes.
And it is it's some bits of that first one. It's a bit hard to watch.
Yeah. I would agree.
But believe me, they are totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Those movies are amazing.
Marley and Me, maybe not.
Marley and Me,
maybe not.
Give it a pass.
Maybe not for the pain of seeing that. Do I want to spend an hour and a half with Owen Wilson?
Wow.
Wow, hey Marley.
I can't do it. I can't do it. It's terrible. My wife can do it. She does it. Yeah, it's one word, but that's it. Seriously, I can't do it. Do it now. Wow. That's all right. That sounds good.
Wow.
No, that sounds terrible. I sound like a parrot.
Oh, Jesus.
No, that's terrible. All right, moving on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about what we watched this week?
We need to change that, because that was so funny listening to last week where you had a guest on without me and you were doing those things.
Yeah, and poor Kyle.
Everyone, Kyle, you're a champion for taking it on. But Nicholas was on the train listening to that, and I was pissing myself laughing. Trying to do those things?
It was a little bit that I cut out of the episode. It was me when I was explaining to Kyle how awkward I felt while I was trying to do all the jingle stuff. Anyway. Shit. All right. So what did you watch this week?
No, you go first, because I'm going to...
Right.
Oh, no? Okay, I'll go first. Okay,
sorry.
That's all right. He wasn't prepared.
I was not prepared.
I have started the Best Picture watch. So I've started my nominations, and the first one I've watched is Lady Bird.
One I'm yet to see.
Greta Gerwig. Written and directed. What else has she done? I'm not sure. Let's find out. Oh, she's primarily an actress. That is rad. So this is her second movie. Her first movie was Nights and Weekends, 2008. Do you remember that, Tys?
No, I'm not really familiar with Greta Gerwig stuff at all.
Yeah, fair deal.
Because I'm not against Noah Baumbach. by any kind of theory. Noah Baumbach
Yeah.
has written and directed a few things that she starred in, like Frances Ha and what was the other one that they did together?
I have no idea.
Stand by. And so it's not that I'm against. I've watched a few of his movies, but I've never really connected with them in a really strong way that I seek out all of his films.
Yeah, fair deal. Fair deal.
Frances Ha, and there was one, Mistress America.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they were a couple that she starred and maybe even co-wrote with him some of them, maybe, or I might be making that up.
Fair deal.
Oh no, she co-wrote Mistress America with him. Yeah, so I haven't. You
haven't seen it, yeah. Well, she was new. She was new to me. This is the first thing I've seen her in. Sure. I have seen her act, but yeah, I didn't realise it was her. I don't know who she is. Look, the movie itself, great. Talking about the film, the movie itself is a nice watch. You know, it's got stellar performances. Yeah, there's some. You say her name, Saoirse.
Saoirse.
Saoirse Ronan is great. She's awesome. I've always liked Saoirse. I've been watching her in all these different things. I like her acting. I think she's great. Laurie Metcalf, who I've always loved since watching Roseanne when I was a kid. Auntie Jackie, she's rad. And being this Toy Story mum all the way through. That's been her. But yeah, it was good. Performances was good. Storyline was good. I didn't, I was engaged. It was fun, but because now putting it on a plane where let's say Lady Bird isn't nominated for Best Picture, right, this year. If I would have watched that, I would have gone, "Oh, that was a lovely film," and moving on.
Sure,
But unfortunately, So if it was just not nominated, I would go, "Oh, Tys, you should watch Lady Bird. It's a lovely film with Laurie Metcalf and I forget her name, Saoirse Ronan."
Saoirse.
Yeah, and that would be it.
Yeah,
but because it's Oscar nominated, now it's known as Oscar nominated Lady Bird. So it comes with weight.
Yeah, it does. And I agree with what
I don't like that this affects me because it shouldn't, but it does. Now, going on that, I was talking to a friend of mine at work today, and he said, "Well, why should that change anything? Why should if they're trying to make it so that a cool indie film like this is going into Oscar Best Picture nominated, why shouldn't they change the wheel? Why does it have to be something as beautiful and just an epic like Dunkirk, Yeah, it doesn't have to have that big a budget in order to become a Best Picture, which I totally agreed with him, but I had nothing. Where do you sit with this?
Yeah, I think, I can see both sides of the argument, and depending on, I guess, which movie I'm trying to defend, I'd probably argue either side just as effectively, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
Because, you're right, we shouldn't
judge.
go into a film and put our own expectations on it because that's unfair to the film.
Yeah.
But at the same time, don't we expect a certain ambition and execution? And it's not so much about scope. It's just there's a certain level of proficiency in our
Oscar nominated
Best Pictures. And sometimes yes, I think it's extremely difficult to craft like a very, very good coming of age drama comedy that has true characters and that feels lived in, and
you have great characters, like all of the actors do their part. There's no weak link in this movie
all
at
that
all.
Kind of stuff. And that, I'm sure that is very difficult, but then sometimes you can't help but compare it against the difficulty of maybe something like Dunkirk or like The Shape of Water that is its ambition is so much higher and its scope is so much larger, but so I see the argument on either side.
Exactly.
I think if you're going to start nominating these kind of movies, I think there are certain genres that we need to also acknowledge. Like, I think it's time to acknowledge
how hard it is
to
do
legitimately good comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if you want to say, oh yeah, this really nice indie coming of age drama comedy was the best version of that, we should also start thinking about, well, what was the best version of a comedy you saw this year?
Exactly.
And let's bring that in the conversation.
Yeah.
What's the best version of... Because, I mean, if you want to nominate Lady Bird because you think it's the best that you can possibly get out of a dramedy, coming of age indie dramedy, then the argument can be made that Logan should be Best Picture nominated because it's probably the best you can possibly get from a superhero movie.
Absolutely.
Definitely at this point in time.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
but in that as well, not only are you opening the doors to comedy, you have to open the doors to horror.
And well, at least this year they have. Yeah. They've embraced horror a little bit more, but I think...
But it's not going to ever win Best Picture.
It's kind of unfair to say, because I don't think Get Out, I think, was a force to be reckoned with because of its social impact, just as much as the fact that it's an incredibly great horror film.
Yeah.
I think you can't avoid what it's trying to say on a social level, and so that kind of pushes it into a different category, into a
another level, not category,
higher level of esteem.
Yeah, exactly.
People are allowed to say, "Oh no, but that's not like a real horror film because it was blah blah blah." And it's like, well, if you pay any attention to the horror genre, you'll know that these things have been happening in horror for years.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of horror, it's always been socially aware.
Yeah.
You're just a little bit too pretentious to want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm with you on both sides.
Yeah.
It was different. I think it's okay to have it in there. Let's just start acknowledging all of these kind of maybe not as much acknowledged genres.
If you're going to change the wheel, sure, start it, and that's great. But yeah, we need to, if we're gonna open the door up to something like an indie film, which was it reeked of not reeked is a bad word. It was classic Netflix original.
This is what I've heard from a couple of different people that as far as the film goes,
it was great.
If you saw it as a Netflix original, or if you saw it at a festival somewhere, you'd be championing it as like this little great little indie movie worth watching.
Exactly.
But then as soon as it's like best director, like what are we talking about
best
here?
Best picture? Are you serious?
Best picture, like screenplay, actress, those kind of things.
Sure.
Yeah. But when we start to kind of get out of those areas and are talking about the craft of filmmaking, like what are we talking about? Like what are we really talking about? How can you even compare
the two?
The Shape of Water to something like that, which built an entire world around a period piece and yet made it completely its own original lived-in world.
Yeah.
From the ground up, compared to and that's not fair to me say because I haven't seen it, but
no, of course not. But you're an indie movie that's literally just the smaller budget. Not that money has anything to do with it, but also it's a good script, yes. But it's also there is no CG in this film at all. You're not going into massive amounts of storyboarding like I think Shape of Water would and things like that. Creature costuming and all of this stuff.
It's just incredibly ambitious ideas through it that he wanted to put on a film.
Yeah.
Whether or not they all work
that's not taking anything away from Lady Bird.
No, of course not.
It was great, but
I'm sure, and that's not that's not what we're trying to say. I think it's just that's the other side of the argument. As soon as you say this is one of the 5 best directed films of the year,
that's a big statement.
You start to then go, well then show me what you got.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can't help but feel that way. Like I think that's fair.
That's what I do, and I don't like that I do that, but that's what I do.
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you're willing to acknowledge it. You're not going in with any kind of no, I'm not like that, man. It just wasn't that good. Like, I think going into it and saying, no, I carry my own expectations into that, and I'm trying not to, but I can't help it.
Exactly.
Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very good.
Yeah, Lady Bird.
I'm excited to see it, though. I'm really excited to see it.
Because the trailer looked hilarious.
Yeah, it's going to be right up my alley,
yeah.
I think. I think I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it.
What did you watch, Tys?
I watched a couple of things. I watched a low-budget horror movie from a couple of years ago called The Void. You heard of this?
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a real old-school John Carpenter throwback kind of film. It's very it's got plot elements stolen from a whole bunch of horror films that you would recognize. Like you're watching it and it's like, oh, this is going a little bit Hellraiser-y, and then it's like, oh, this is a little bit Prince of Darkness-y.
Okay.
It liberally borrows with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also super gory, lots of practical effects, like heaps of practical effect work.
Tyson watching some horror.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Was it the daytime, Tys?
It was the daytime.
There you go, audience.
And it was okay. It was okay. I think some of the performances let it down because it's low budget, so they perhaps didn't have the money to pay some slightly better actors.
Low budget sometimes makes it scary.
Yeah, look, and I just I think it's just unfortunate because sometimes you can see that what they were going for. It was like, you needed a bit more a skill level to be able to pull off that idea a little bit more effectively.
Fair deal.
It's super ambitious. It almost kind of sticks a lot of it. Like it really does. It comes really close. It's one of those films that you're like, wow, I'd love to see you guys with a bunch more money, and a bunch more support behind you. Like, because I think with some a more experienced DP or a more experienced editing team, more experienced production design team, you could really do some great work.
I like when you see movies like that. You're like, oh, guys, you almost hit it.
Yeah, because it's got some really gnarly ideas in it and stuff. Yeah. And it's one of those movies that just absolutely should have ended 30 seconds before it did, which I love. I love when it's just like, oh, you want to chuck that extra scene in? Oh, no. That was a terrible idea.
Oh, you idiots.
Yeah.
Who's your editor? What's going on?
Yeah. So that's The Void. You can just watch that on Stan at the moment.
Voiding.
So, if you're a fan of 80s
throwbacks,
80s throwback horror, and you're okay with a bit of kind of gnarly body horror stuff, I would say go for it. I also watched American Fable, which this is a first feature film, written and directed by a lady called Anne Hamilton.
Oh yeah,
and it is a very interesting kind of fantasy, kind of thriller. A little bit of horror, a little bit Pan's Labyrinth-y, but very much an American setting.
Okay. Sounds like it's a bit all over the shop.
It is all over the shop.
Okay.
And it does an exceptionally good job of juggling a lot of tones and a lot of thematic ideas.
Okay.
Maybe
this is Anne Hamilton's first feature.
Yeah.
Written, directed.
Yeah.
Bring it on. That's awesome.
This is one of those things where I think she wanted to say so much that I think it just loses a bit of focus sometimes. And if she had just narrowed her focus to a couple of ideas, we might have been more effective. But it's one of those, I can't fault the ambition of it. So I'm like, hey man, I'll just go for the ride.
Yeah.
It's
did it have that first album feel?
It did a little bit. Yeah. It felt like something very important, very personal, something that she'd worked on for a long time.
Yeah.
It's a story of I should say, because I'm just talking about this thing and people are like, well, what the fuck is it about? It's a story of a girl, and she had a really interesting name, and I kept forgetting. Gitty, maybe? Was it Gitty?
Gitty. Was it Gitty?
Gitty.
Let's have a look.
Gitty. So Gitty and her family live on a farm in the 80s.
Gitty.
An American farm in the 80s.
Oh my God, Toby Ziegler's in this thing.
Toby Ziegler is in this thing.
Okay.
And it's set against the backdrop of that kind of Reagan era when the farming community was falling to shit. And so they were really worried about where that was going to end up. And as part of a deal that her father has worked out with someone who can help them with funding, they are taking part in a kidnapping. So they, the
thriller side of it.
That's the thriller side of it.
Yeah.
Now for Giddy though, who has quite an overactive imagination, she comes across this man who they're keeping in the silo,
right? And
she starts to kind of imagine that he's like this magical person that lives in their silo.
Okay. How old is Giddy? 10?
11.
11.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it just kind of goes from there.
Sure.
I don't want to give any of it away because I think where it goes is really unexpected.
Oh, wow.
Really strange. There are elements. Sometimes it kind of does the fantasy element stuff, and then sometimes it holds back a little and I want it to go more, and then sometimes it's not quite... Like, you know how Pan's Labyrinth juggled it so effectively?
So well.
Like when it had to be fantasy, it went all the way.
Yeah.
And when it was... And you honestly... It played with your perception of it so effectively because at the end, even though we're watching a movie, so to say it's real or not is kind of perfunctory.
Yeah.
We didn't know what the movie was telling us. Was the movie trying to tell us it was real, or was the movie trying to tell us it was made up? And we didn't want to believe that it wasn't real.
Exactly.
Because that was almost too heartbreaking for us.
So when you did find out, it brought on those tears.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that, and we allow ourselves to believe the perfect ending of Pan's Labyrinth, even though maybe it's
absolutely.
not what is actually happening.
Yeah.
So in this, I was kind of like, you need to commit one way or the other.
Oh, okay.
You need to kind of you need to embrace your fantasy stuff. It was a little bit too subtly littered throughout, so you could never really latch onto anything like tangibly. Like, am I meant to think this is happening, or am I meant to think it's an imagination thing?
Okay.
We never let us make the choice, but maybe that was a deliberate choice of the filmmaker to make sure that we could never do that.
Yeah, yeah.
There's some really good performances, a couple of not too great ones. Giddy is excellent, the young girl playing Giddy. She's so great.
Yeah.
Really, really great child performance. And
cool.
Toby Ziegler,
He's in it,
and he's great. Really, really awesome. Without giving away, he's the man in the silo.
He's the man in the silo.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Now I have to watch it.
Yeah. So that was just on Netflix.
Netflix.
Definitely worth it. It's got one of my it's got a dream sequence in it, which was honestly had some of the greatest visual dream sequence representation I had ever seen.
Oh, really?
It was so effective, and I was like, this is incredible. It nailed that feeling of that strange kind of reality-bending, dreamlike state that I think sometimes filmmakers struggle to visualize effectively. This one was like spot on. It was really great.
Oh, nice.
Yes, that was American Fable.
American Fable on Netflix.
You can watch that. The last thing I watched, and you'll be excited about this, is I finally watched The Gift.
Oh, thank God for that.
And
nice.
Yeah, it's been sitting in the to-watch list for ages.
How good was that?
I liked it a lot. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think I was a little let down by the ending, I think. I don't think it fully...
I think I forget the ending, but that's okay. Keep going. Don't tell me the ending.
You forget the ending?
Yeah,
which is possibly
which is good
ending?
because I can go back for another watch. So this is 2015's Gift, not
the Sam Raimi film from the 2000s. Yeah. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I just didn't buy the ending, I think, and I think it kind of didn't ruin the experience, but just kind of left me a bit kind of unsatisfied at the end, which was a bit disappointing because I was really on board for it the whole way through, and I loved the twists and turns along the way. I think for like what could have been like a really trashy kind of obsessed level adult thriller where like
which you're just bored
where you're just like, come on, this is such garbage.
Yeah. It made you think that a little bit, but then as you know, the twist and turns came at perfect times.
It was like the best kinds of those 90s thrillers. It was the best version of those, and I think that was its best stuff was that kind of middle third, I think.
Yeah.
When we're starting to paint a picture, but we're also for some reason being kind of pulled in the opposite direction. Yeah. And we don't quite know why, and we don't know what's going on.
I think I do remember the ending.
Yeah. So this is, Joel Edgerton wrote and directed and plays Gordo in this. Gordo the Weirdo.
But yeah, I watched this. I would watch this again for I already love Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
It's in saying that I haven't seen Arrested Development, but
it is insane.
I love this because of him and
his performance is incredible.
Diversity that he shows us finally, because we know him as a comedy actor. He can do that. He can do that standing on his head.
Yeah.
But this is a little different, and this is why I kind of like this.
And he plays to his like everyman qualities.
Yeah.
So exceptionally
they use
well.
It, if anything.
Yeah.
His advantage,
and they almost use it against. Spoilers for The Gift. Let's just say spoilers for The Gift, because I think it's probably the safest way to do this. 2015 The Gift. Spoilers.
If you haven't seen it,
I'll put a time code on and just say, don't listen from here to here. Cool. You've been warned. So as they use our goodwill towards Jason Bateman, so that we can assume that, he's clearly the good guy. It's Jason Bateman. He's lovely.
Why would
and
he
then
be ever?
As we start to see just little... There's one conversation he has with her kind of early that really rubbed me the wrong way. I can't remember the specifics of it, but he said something to her and I kind of went, I don't know if you're a nice person.
It was the garage scene for me.
Which one was the garage?
When he sees him at the back and he meets Gordo. I remember it was in front of not in the garage.
Oh, I mean, that's obvious. That's the big turning point. That's absolutely the big turning point. But even leading up to that point, I was starting to kind of. I think they just littered little bits here and there of the fact that he's maybe not the person he paints himself as,
which was so good. Just using that.
Yeah, but
what we know of Jason Bateman against us.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and Joel Edgerton, I think, is so good at. In his performance, because he uses our kind of cinematic knowledge against us as well. Yeah. By we assume that it's a crazy stalker movie, blah 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 blah.
Gordo is the weirdo.
Gordo's the weirdo. Gordo. Oh my god. Yeah. But really, when you break it down and think about it away from a thriller movie setting, he hasn't done anything.
Gordo's just a nice guy.
And maybe a little bit weird, like a little bit of a strange unit.
Sure.
But really, on surface level,
he hasn't done anything.
Nothing.
Nothing. Exactly.
But because we're in a thriller mode, because we're watching a thriller.
Careful, he's going to attack.
There's creepy music, and it's like Jason Bateman being all like, I don't know about this guy. He's kind of weirding me out.
And you see it all around the house, so you think, the home invasion style.
Exactly. And so when you just see him at the door waving, you're kind of like, oh no, it's Gordo. What's he going to do?
Shit.
He doesn't do anything. Yeah. He brings a gift and is perfectly lovely and then leaves. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, he's obviously a bit strange and he's trying to...
Sure.
He's, like the whole thing where he invites them to dinner and he obviously records them and stuff like that. So he obviously is not all there.
Yeah.
And he is trying to, I tend to not think that he's trying to exact revenge from the beginning.
Yeah,
That's
I'd
not
have
the
to
vibe.
watch it again, to be honest. But yeah,
That's
I know
not
what you're
how I
talking
feel about it.
Yeah,
I think it was something that gradually happens
yeah.
as he realizes that Simon
you
is
haven't
still
changed.
a piece
You're still
of shit.
a fucking cunt.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh,
and I'm going to find a really fun sound effect to cover that up with.
Please
Some
do.
kind of like,
oh, please do. I'm sick of saying that. I feel bad.
Yeah, so I think that as it went on and he realized, I think, and then he kind of, because he's obviously not all there.
Yeah.
He then built this kind of massive, I'm going to be what they think I am kind of narrative out of it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty effective. I just don't think the finale to that whole thing.
For that whole thing?
I think thematically it really works.
Yeah.
I think the
Do
idea.
you think maybe it was the journey that instead of, does it matter that the ending didn't fulfill you? Was it the journey that
the journey's the most exciting part of this film for sure. But it was just kind of like, I get the whole idea that because he will never know for sure, it's instilled this kind of this lifelong doubt in him that he's felt his whole life.
Yeah.
This whole kind of, he's had to live with that, with knowing the truth of a situation, but everyone believes something else, and it's caused all kinds of heartbreak, and so
it's affected his life.
Yeah, it's affected his whole life. So he's done something similar that gives him the power and takes Simon's power away.
Yeah,
I think there might have been a better version of that isn't quite so putting her in the fridge, as the saying is. Like it's a bit kind of, and because I think Rebecca Hall's character is really quite interesting through the film. The way that she's kind of troubled as well. Like she's on medication and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. She's struggling through life.
Yeah.
And she's had struggles.
And I think she sees in Gordo someone kind of similar.
Exactly.
And she kind of feels sorry for him is probably a bit demeaning a term, but I think it's something similar to that she sees like as kind of like a kindred spirit in the problems that they have.
Yeah. And
so for her to kind of just become like the real victim of that, I think is a bit, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway.
Fair deal.
But
it is such a good movie.
And I'm Joel Edgerton, I'm excited for something.
Yeah.
Well, he's doing like a weird kind of, I don't know if they're trying to make it a comedy or not, but he's doing a film about a kid that gets sent to like a de-gay camp. It's based on a book about
Boy Erased.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so does it say if they're going for like comedy or drama or
Son of a Baptist? Oh no, it doesn't. The son of a Baptist preacher is forced to participate in a church supporting gay conversion program.
Yeah.
Because that works, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's clear, There's plenty of evidence to support that it's very healthy and leads to a very fulfilling life.
Totally works. Do you think The Gift should have been Oscar nominated? Like, it was good.
It's really good. But
I remember enjoying it so much better than Lady Bird. Not to compare them. But you know what I mean.
But I know what you mean. But like that's the thing. At what point in our lives can we just totally accept that? I just want the Oscars to be the movies that I think are the best movies. Like, and not just I think. Sorry, that sounds weird. But that we all universally agree
on. Yeah, exactly. Mad Max should have won Best Picture. Fury Road. How is that not the
Fury Road was just the best movie of that year. Like there was.
It may have cleaned up on everything else, but that didn't matter.
And that was the really frustrating thing about it is because it won all this technical stuff, but also at the bottom line, it was still like that all adds up. To make it
one of the best movies, anyway, of that year.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I think there was stuff in Gift that probably could have been.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's funny how it's just kind of not talked about. Like, which I think is a bit of a shame because to me it kind of ranks.
It's
like it should be up like people should talk about it the way they talk about like Fatal Attraction and stuff like that as the thrillers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh my god, have you seen this? It's wild.
Silence of the Lambs type style.
Yeah. Well, maybe not quite because there is a trashiness to the Gift.
Under that,
there is that kind of that. It would have been on like late night channel in the 90s. It would have been like on Channel 9 at 11:30, and it would have come up with
Basic
the
Instinct.
AO, and you know what I mean. It had that kind of that little bit of a kind of a trashy streak to it.
AO adults only.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So maybe not Silence of
the Lambs, but definitely Basic Instinct.
Definitely your Basic Instinct level.
Your single white female.
Yes.
Your hand that rocks a cradle.
Yes. Exactly.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
But it's just no one mentions it, so it's a real shame.
Yeah, fair deal.
Anyway, that was a rant and a half. This could be the episode on The Gift almost.
Fair deal.
And we should probably get on to our feature prayers.
Let's get on to feature prayers.
Episode 51st.
Yay!
Feature prayers.
All right.
And now for our feature presentation.
All right.
All right.
Here we go.
Let's bite this off, shall we?
Well, all right. So, 2013, Nick.
2013.
We got to start.
All right.
With what was your anticipation levels like?
All right. Well,
for Man of Steel?
Okay. Well, we've talked about this before. When the trailer came out, it was clearly a Nolan feel to it.
Yeah.
You had your very longing shots. This had nothing to do with, this was very different from Iron Man, Hulk, all of those. This was a different type of movie. That's what this was.
Sure.
Friends of my friends, we all went to watch this thing, and after that first scene, we all looked at each other. After Krypton had blown up, we all looked at each other and went, "Ah, fuck." And from then on in, because this thing is not a short film, Tyson.
No, it's not.
From then on in, it was just, and this got reiterated when we had to watch it last week for the podcast. After a certain point, I just kept getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And unfortunately, I own this because someone gave it to me, but that is the only reason I own this. So yeah, what was your? I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to be. I was ready for another Superman movie. It has been so long since. Actually, no, it wasn't. It wasn't that long since Superman Returns.
No, it hadn't been that long.
But I wanted. Yeah, I'm going to keep going. What was your first?
No, I was in a very similar position. I was really excited for this version. I think my excitement was kind of a little bit muted compared to my excitement for Superman Returns.
Yep.
I can honestly say that I was so anticipating that movie.
Yeah.
I was going bonkers because all the trailers seemed perfectly like what I wanted a Superman film to be.
Yep.
And this one I was like, they're taking it a different way.
Yeah.
And I wasn't against the angle they were going for. I think there were some moments in the trailer that really kind of surprised me in a good way. Like there was the bit where, there was some like shots of the kid running around with the red cape on, and it was all very like, it was kind of Malick style shot. And it was like lots of sunbeams hitting the camera and these reflective
lot of ocean
kind of
shots, and then you see him with a beard, and you're like, oh wow, okay, this is different. This is
stuff like having the Kevin Costner, the
talk.
Should I just let them die? It's like, I don't know, maybe. And it's like, well, this is stuff that you don't. Yeah, okay, we're kind of going on we're going to really ground it. We're going to kind of deal with some of the heavier kind of moralistic things that maybe we don't always think about when we think about an invincible superhero,
a god, basically.
So I was cautiously optimistic. And then the first time I saw it, I was not disappointed. Disappointed is probably not the right word. I think I came out and I knew I didn't enjoy it. No.
Yep, okay.
And I couldn't quite put my finger on why initially. It took a little while, and it took a little bit of reflection and focus. And I've now seen it 4 times.
Right.
Which for some reason, I don't know why, but I do kind of return to this one a little bit.
Okay.
So I watched it not long after it came out on DVD, and then I watched it when it popped up on streaming, and now I've watched it for this.
Yeah.
And I find it pretty watchable, really, despite all of its problems.
Okay.
I think it's this definitely confirmed it for me, the viewing I had today. It's the best of these DC films by a long margin, I think.
Well, I have to see Wonder Woman again. But I do agree with you to some extent, because there is that the end of not the first act, because the first act goes for a while. Depends where your acts end. The end of the first act for me is where I was like, now this is the movie that I wanted. When Krypton is finished, and you get it's the origin story that everyone knows. He lands, Mara and Pa Kent, all of that stuff. Him going to school. They intercut that with Clark on a journey, and that was kind of good. We're kind of getting a little bit of an origin story, but not really, because we all know it. That's where I liked the movie. I was like, okay, now I'm beginning to like this. This is what I wanted, and then I'm going to get to it later.
That's right. I should clarify, because I do just forget that Wonder Woman exists as a thing, because I was so underwhelmed by it. I'd say they're about on par. Yeah. I think Man of Steel's ambitions greatly outweigh Wonder Woman's ambitions.
Yep.
I think Wonder Woman is a more effectively told story.
Sure.
but it doesn't really say anything.
No,
doesn't
yeah.
it kind of doesn't say anything.
Yeah, it's just.
Whereas I think some of the stuff that
in
Man of Steel's trying, they're trying to say, at least they're trying in some ways. They fail miserably on a lot of it, and they muddy the waters a lot on what the thematic kind of purpose of this whole fucking movie is.
But the themes of what Superman stands for, his ideals, they muddy it completely. I completely agree with you. Yeah.
And so that's a big problem for it, I think.
Yeah. For me especially.
Heaps. I like.
Go on.
I really like the Krypton opening.
Do you?
Yeah, but not.
You are alone
not for
in
a
that.
Superman movie though.
Yeah. Sure, put it in another movie. It's actually
it looks
not bad.
great. It looks,
but it's I don't need to see
they've created
this.
a really interesting world,
but
that
no one
has no
purpose
relevance
being in this fucking movie. No one needs to see that. No one.
It's really disappointing because I think if that was a world created for any other sci-fi film,
sure,
I think we'd be talking about the really effective world building and stuff. But because it's Superman, it's kind of like, oh,
you're going into way too much detail
what
on
is all this nonsense?
Exactly, on a place that I don't need to know about.
And the place that is going to explode,
Yeah.
like really soon. Like at least when you watch the old one, and I don't want to compare it too much to the other ones because I feel like it's really
It's going to be hard not to though.
But when you see those Krypton scenes in the old ones, all it did was create a alien atmosphere.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cold, and it didn't feel.
It wasn't earthy.
There was no earthy qualities to it at all. But it wasn't like a knockoff Pandora either. No. Like it was like what we get here, where it's this. It's almost too lived in.
You could literally take this out of a Star Wars film.
Yeah,
like with the creatures.
It could be one of the random planets.
This is just a random planet.
Exactly. Yeah. So I found it kind of. Like irrelevant, just how much work they put into this world that then doesn't even really achieve what it should achieve, which is to make it feel really foreign and really alien.
But for me, like 8 minutes into this thing, I even clocked it. 8 minutes in, it was already with the acting and with the set pieces and things like that. It was just too. It was over dramatic.
There's some really dodgy line reads in this.
And
Russell Crowe does some pretty shoddy stuff that I'm surprised they didn't say, hey man, do you want to have another
do you want to have
crack
another
at
that? Yeah, exactly. Like we just go into detail, but there's no... I've written down, no one is saying my favourite bit of Man of Steel is the start. In a different movie, sure. But the thing is, like, we're given all of this information at the start, but we don't understand who these people are or what the fuck is going on. No. I do because I've read the fucking comics. Like I know who Jor-El is, the council and all the things like that. But while I was watching it with Sam, I paused it just as they shot off Clark in the ship, and I paused it and I said, "Do you know why Jor-El knows that Krypton is going to explode?" She goes, "No. Why?" I'm like, no. I want to know what you think of the start. So it hasn't explained anything. Jor-El is not this is going now. In saying what I'm about to say, this is going against what I've read. Now you can either change up what we all know, can make it completely different and something, just another take on it, which is awesome. Or you can adhere to the original text and stay true to the character. Now, for me, Jor-El is a scientist. He's not a guy with a gun who almost beats the shit out of General Zod.
No, well, he does say he is a scientist. He says he's the chief scientist and the chief inventor at a point.
At the very end of the Krypton section.
Yeah, but he does hold up pretty well against apparently the best soldier.
Exactly.
In Krypton, he does a pretty good job against him.
He does a rad job, yeah.
Yeah. I found it felt like a bit of an exposition dump at the start. The way it's just like, this is happening, this is happening. And then Zod busts through, and it's like, this is happening, this is happening. Yeah. It's all a lot.
Yeah.
But then there's some things that I'm just like, some momentary ideas that I'm like, well, fuck me, we should spend some more time on this because that actually seems like it's pretty huge. Like that whole chamber where babies are being made.
The underwater?
Yeah.
So that made me go, what am I watching? What the fuck is this?
This is fucked up.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, whose skull is that? The Codex. Whose skull is that? What are we talking about here?
But yeah, that's what he literally dives in, grabs the skull, and I'm like, Well, whose skull is that? What is that? I don't know what that is.
It's the Codex.
It's the Codex. Well, okay, so what's a Codex then?
Thanks.
Sure.
Like it's the DNA of all of our history. And I'm like, well, how to get in the skull? What's it doing in the skull?
Yeah.
And look, I don't need everything spoon fed to me, but
but I need something.
There's a difference between like world building, and just saying shit and letting us assume that that's just how it is. Then I guess. Like there's that you've got to find the fine line between where it's relevant. It's not just a skull for the sake of it being a skull.
Exactly.
It's not just.
But it was just a skull for the sake of being a skull.
Like they're talking because when he does the kind of when he tells the story of Krypton and he says that we had to move to population control and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like. Okay, but
that's a lot of history.
What did that mean? Why then? Are we right in assuming that Clark is the only natural birth in that whole period of time? They banned it basically.
Yeah,
you're telling me that two people didn't just bang at some point and they went around and just went.
And they weren't in protection.
Let's just keep it on. Let's just keep a lid on this.
Wraps. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Are you telling me that didn't happen?
That didn't happen ever.
Bullshit.
Like I'm like, are these people sterile now? Have they forcibly made them sterile? Have they banned sexual
intercourse
altogether?
Yeah,
or any kind of interaction at all? Is that like
exactly?
I'm watching this thing and this is my biggest problem with the movie on the whole.
Right,
it is stimulant overload.
Yeah.
The whole time, and we'll get to it when at the ending because it is honestly just you are overwhelmed with stuff in this.
It's way too much.
Your brain doesn't get a chance to process it all.
Yeah,
and also attach it
to characters
significantly in any way to anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there are moments here when we can kind of talk about some of the things that they're implying by the world they've created. Yeah. But no, shit's got to blow up, and we've got to ride on a donkey with wings, and that has a name. And I'm like, we're in Lord of the Rings now.
I know it was so.
When he calls his fucking giant bird dog. Oh, this is ridiculous.
It's so true.
But
But
could be amazing in a film that expands the mythology.
It could have been awesome. It could have been really awesome to the point where people go, well, I want to see a Krypton movie now. Let's do like a prequel to... Because that was so
the
well
Sci-Fi Channel's doing a Krypton television series.
Of course they are. Everyone's doing a fucking TV series of superheroes now.
Set like generations before Jor-El.
What is that going to be of? Tell me what that's going to be of.
It'll be like... But see, this is the thing. If it does like what Gotham does and introduces like all the villains as babies,
don't get me started on Gotham.
I'm not interested in that.
I hate that
if it's like a Deep Space Nine style political intrigue and like
has nothing to do with Superman whatsoever, and has
just
like
the
Phantom Zone villains in there and all that stuff.
Yeah, like how an alien race works diplomatically, with like some intrigue and some thriller aspects thrown in. Sure, that could maybe work.
Bring that on.
But that's not what it's going to be. It's going to be little littered moments of. It'll be like Smallville all over again,
or Flash.
except
Smallville
set on
exactly.
Krypton.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's going to be set in a alien high school where supposedly, there's going to be love triangles. It's going to be Dawson's Creek on fucking Krypton.
I think they will have there'll be a character that will be like the version of Doomsday, and there'll be
and Brainiac's going to be
Brainiac
in there.
will be a computer program or some shit.
And
Zod's great grandfather will also happen to be called Zod.
Yeah,
and
you know what? Jor-El and Zod end up being best friends, just like Lex Luthor and fucking what a fucking stupid thing that happened.
I
in
like
Smallville.
that actually.
Really? God.
Excuse me. Lex Luthor was the best character on Smallville.
Really?
He was really great.
I watched one episode. I think I watched 5 episodes of that. Realized that it's Dawson's Creek, and he does one power an episode. And then
the first season is shit house. Yeah. I'll say that quite comfortably. First season is balls. It did get quite good, and then it got quite bad.
Yeah,
it had a slow peak. And
one thing that I remembered. Sorry, coming back to the feature prez. Lara dies by herself. She dies alone. She's just
really sad.
Set off her child to a world that she's never going to see him again. She just saw her husband get knifed, and her reaction to that was really fucking slow, by the way. If you see your husband get knifed, you don't just stand there for 2 seconds and just go, oh, well, I'm going to go over and check if he's okay. Because clearly he's dead.
Check.
I better check. No, you jump on Zod and rip his head off. But yeah, she dies by herself. And I'm like, come on, really? Seriously?
It's unfortunate. I think it's maybe trying to... I think by killing Jor-El at Zod's hand is unnecessary.
No, but I understand. I could kind of see what they were trying to do.
Well, it gives them an action sequence, it makes Zod a little bit more threatening.
Vindictive against... he wants to get...
Yeah.
You know, it's not just
know,
the Codex, but it's also the son of
Having
Jor-El.
said that, I think that shot of her walking toward the explosions and stuff is stunning. It's
lovely.
It's beautiful.
There are lovely visuals in
this.
Yeah,
there are some really great moments of shot composition where you just kind of like, fuck that.
That looks awesome.
That looks really great, and that's somewhat he's had to visualize that in his head and go, that's what I want it to look like.
Yeah.
And that's some of the stuff he does exceptionally well.
Yeah.
But then he also makes their prisons look like dildos.
Oh God, they were dildos. They were just space dicks. They were big space dicks.
I can't believe no one sees it and goes,
guys, maybe not.
Can we at least cut the base bit that looks like balls? Can we just at least get rid of that so they just look like coffins instead of dick and balls?
Literally dick and balls. All of them. And the fact that they're all going up at once, you're like, oh God, that looks terrible.
So bad.
But the thing is...
I like that goo that comes up and like freezes them.
I
thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like how there's little nods to just how kind of crazy straight-laced Zod is.
Oh, yeah.
Like just little things like the way...
at the end.
Yeah, like how all these other generals and stuff get scared by the stuff and kind of freak out, and he just stands there
and just watches this thing melt over him. Yeah, I did love that. So going on what you said before, this is just a bombardment of so much stuff thrown at our face. That's why when you flip the coin and the next scene ends after Jor-El's landed, after Kal-El's landed.
Yeah.
We get the flip, and you're allowed to breathe.
Yeah.
And you finally go, oh, this is nice. And we see it starts off with Clark on a fishing ship.
Yeah,
and
this whole section I think is fine. I
would prefer the film start from there. I'm happy to forego the entire first whatever the fuck that and have the film start from there.
I think because I mean you had to do it one way or the other. Like I think it's good to see some of that stuff on Krypton. I think it's in order to at least acknowledge Russell Crowe and as Jor-El, sorry.
Yeah.
And the Zod stuff. It just I feel like putting it at the start of the movie feels like the kind of the cliched choice, but I think it's the only choice that works. Like I don't think you could do the Krypton stuff as like a midway flashback. Like
no, you couldn't. You need to. I don't think it has to do with Jor-El or Lara. I think it's substantiating Zod. Is that the right word? Substantiating? Yeah, sure. It's giving him weight. You need to know why he's bad.
Yeah, for sure. I like these flashbacks, but I don't like them at the same time. I think because I think in order for the flashbacks to work, we also have to be engaged in what's happening in the present, and I'm not particularly.
Yeah,
I don't care about him as the drifter. I don't like.
It's bad filmmaking.
I'm not interested in that story. I'm not interested in the
bar scenes.
Like the bar scenes is rubbish. I don't like. I think by establishing that he is just a good guy. I mean, were we ever really in doubt of that? I mean, this is a Superman movie. Like, we don't need to see him just like save a bunch of dudes. Like, mate, but
I didn't mind the oil rig. I didn't care for the bar though.
No, because the bar is him being a bit of a dick. So,
which you kind of need a little bit because you need to see Kal-El grow into. But this is going to come up later for me. You need to see him grow into the man that he is going to be.
Sure.
So you need to have that interactions. The same with Spidey using his powers for bad to win money.
The problem is where if we work off the ages that we're presented, is that. So Clark is 33 years old.
Yep.
That is too old, I think, for him to be still figuring out the man he wants to be.
Yes, that's
I
true.
think some of those elements should have been in his early 20s.
Yes.
Early to mid-20s, part of the flashbacks.
Yep.
So the thing at the bar, when he still is like a bit angry and a little bit shirty, should have been
him in his 20s.
One of the last things before his dad died. And then he kind of realizes... learn something new, and because we need to have reached a certain point where he would never do something like that.
No.
And I feel like we should have been past that point.
And he needs to realize how powerful he actually is, and he's going to have some real effects.
Like
like he can do what he wants, but he has to turn into the man that he's never going to do that.
Yeah. If you look at If you look at... No, I don't want to look at the old ones. That's not fair.
Don't do that.
I'm going to stop doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm
I see
on board,
where
and
you're
I'm still
getting.
going along with this, but I
Yeah.
feel like we're not getting a character that's true to what we end up getting. I feel like, I think that journey has not already happened, because he still has a lot of growth to be a savior. I think he's past being just a bit of a dick.
He is, but it's too quick. You don't see it's one thing. If you're going to do, there's no point doing an origin story, first off. I didn't like that they did it in Batman v Superman with Bruce. And I don't like that they did it. Everyone knows these origin stories.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I understand that they're... Oh, no, I'm going to get to that later. But you don't need to do them again. So what you need to concentrate on is a kid learning that he is different, and then have... What we didn't get was more of him in his 20s. So we get that car ride with him disagreeing with Jonathan, but that's it. That's all you get. You get him as a kid who wants to do these things, but he doesn't know, you know... Should I save the kids on the bus or should I? Well, I want to, because my instinct is to, because I can.
Yeah.
And then from that, we go from one moment in his 20s where it's not about his powers, it's about him. I don't really know what was.
Well, okay.
This is okay. So this is going to bring this up. What the fuck was that lesson about?
So yeah, I had a very...
I didn't want to get into this just then.
No, that's okay.
Should we get into it now?
Let's jump around, because I don't like going chronologically.
Okay,
anyway.
cool. Because what is that? Because I understand that Jonathan has one of the biggest roles of Superman's... Him and Martha have the biggest role of Clark's life. You need to teach him these lessons, and we need to see them. We see some of them with... I don't mind... The one that you spoke about in the trailer, you know, maybe you shouldn't have saved those kids. Maybe it isn't up to you.
Yeah, and look, and I don't think that's him actually saying don't do those things.
No, it's not.
I think that he's the kind of guy that is up for the conversation.
Yeah,
he's making sure that Clark knows that it is a choice.
Yeah,
everything he does, because he has the ultimate power. He has to choose
to do it,
and so in certain circumstances, the choice you make may not be the one you want to make.
Yeah,
and I think he's just kind of starting to implement that thought process into him.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that's where we get this Dr. Manhattan kind of style, omnipresent, but completely separated from the notion of reality. And we, you know, and that's one of the great things about Watchmen is the way they tackle that. Dr. Manhattan is Superman without parents, basically.
Yeah.
And so just those conversations that he allows him to have, I think, are the most important things. But when it comes to that moment with the hurricane,
what lesson was that?
There is no lesson.
I don't get that.
I don't understand it. I don't, and I think the movie thinks it's more important than it is, or it's more. I think the movie thinks. How do I say?
Go on.
So, it's the actual execution of that scene is not what I think the movie thinks it is. I think the movie thinks it's far heavier and far more poignant than it actually is.
Right.
All it does is make us think, well, there was many different ways you could have handled that.
Are you telling me
that was not about a choice? That was not about sacrificing one for the greater good or any of that kind of stuff. That was none of that shit. That was to me, what I saw was no. They're gonna, if you do this, they're gonna take you away and experiment on you. Bullshit. That's what I think. The bottom line
was that what it was? I don't know what it was.
Well, I don't know. I think Jonathan made some bad calls in how to handle the situation.
Yeah.
And I think Clark was stuck
listening to his dad.
Listening to his dad when he shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And I think they're trying to... I will say this. I think having him die that way is detrimental to what Jonathan Kent is all about.
Yes.
As a character and what he means to Superman. The fact that he died from
a hurricane.
Originally from illness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is where I was going to come into it because
it's so important.
Yeah, you can't help but compare it to the original because he died of a heart attack, right? And I think that's what this was trying to do because you need Jonathan to die, and no matter how powerful Clark is, he couldn't have saved him. He just couldn't. And that's where the lesson is. Whereas
he could absolutely have saved him.
Are you fucking kidding me? It's a hurricane. He could walk through it if he wanted to.
Well, the fact is, like,
A tornado, sorry.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're all the same.
There are differences. No, there are differences. Keep going.
Hurricane Heist begs to differ. It looks exactly like every other fucking Twister movie. So it's just because they couldn't call it Tornado Heist because they were like, no. Alliteration
Hurricane
is important.
Heist.
Yeah.
How good is that?
Oh
my God.
Yeah, because he could have just grabbed him and gone to the other side of the tornado.
And no one would have seen. He would have held
but
him.
Even people might have been like, did anyone else see that? No, we're in the middle of a tornado.
No one's looking.
Shit's going on. Like, people just be like, oh, don't worry about it.
Everyone's ducking covering.
Yeah, exactly. It was like,
Come
oh,
on.
shit, maybe, who knows? And then when it's like, oh, did you make it? Yeah, oh, it's so amazing you made it. Yeah, I was hiding underneath the thing. I somehow, blah, blah, blah.
Come on.
The heart attack is so heartbreaking because, and he even, like, he says it in the movie. All these powers that I have, and I couldn't save him.
Help it. Yeah.
And that is the lesson that he has to learn. That is the most important lesson. And they even set that up with this. It's all about the choice. It's all about you're sometimes going to have to make really difficult choices, and sometimes you're going to be stuck in a position where you are powerless. Yeah,
you can't. You have all these powers, yes, but you're not going to be able to fix everything. Yeah, some things are going to happen,
and that's it. And so choices have to be made. And so it was just really odd because it didn't actually provide that lesson.
No, it was badly written.
Add any of that kind of that thematic weight to Superman as this kind of all-powerful being. There was none of that because it was like, it's a tornado. He's fine. He can beat a tornado. It's not like, oh, my arch nemesis, the tornado, has taken my father.
Tornado Heisty, god damn you. No, Tornado Heisty.
Tornado.
That's terrible.
That's like Sharknado, but like a different kind.
Oh my God. But on the flip side, K-Cost. Come on.
Oh, mate, I've got in big letters. Kevin Costner is the MVP of this movie.
He really is. He sold that.
He's so good. And he's in maybe 6 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
The moment where Clark says, can't we just keep pretending that I'm your son? And he says, you are my son, and hugs him.
Yeah.
Oh, he nails it.
Yeah.
He nails that middle America.
He looks like that, though.
Kind of that rough as guts, but with like just
a heart of gold.
So like, and trying to be the brave, strong man in air quotes.
Yeah. But even with the fight in the car, like him just being that, not stubborn, but knowing that his son is feeling all of these things and all of this, because essentially he's going through puberty at that point.
Yeah.
And
oh my God, like having Henry Cavill play him at that point was so ridiculous too. Like how they've just scruffed up his hair and put him in like a hoodie, and it's
but I feel like they've CG'd him a bit, so he looks a little bit younger, kind of like Last Stand X-Men with Patrick Stewart and
I liked the kids that they had at the different age points. I think they did that really well. They
were really good, yeah.
Sometimes it's like you look at the kids and you're like, oh yeah, that's fine. It was probably hard to find a kid that
that was really Henry
close.
Cavill. Yeah. But yeah, let's move on because I'm just going to get more and more angry. Which I'm going to do anyway.
I'm happy to talk about Kevin Costner because it's one of the things I think the movie got right.
Yeah, well, that's the only bit that I like of. Yeah, even though that end lesson pisses me off.
and so they kind of sold him short and they left him without. They didn't let Jonathan Kent have the emotional payoff he should have.
Yeah,
I think they built it up to that really well.
Yeah.
If he had have died of natural causes after those kind of conversations that he's had, because he's had really weighty conversations, really kind of philosophical, deep stuff.
Yeah.
And then he just gets taken by a
tornado. But don't you think how that's not a word.
Cataclysmically?
Thank you. Massive would it have been had he saved him from the tornado and then he fucking died of a heart attack?
Sure.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is writing this thing? Come the fuck on.
And look, I mean, I agree with you what you're saying. Let's just lose the tornado entirely. Have him save him from just something kind of mundane. Have it just be like he turns around and there's a car speeding,
log or
a log
drops
falls off a thing and he saves him.
Yeah.
And it's like, see, I can do this, and somehow it results that because. And then he has a heart attack.
And because
maybe it's something weird, like he tries to move him too quick, and because he moves him so fast, his body kind of
breaks him.
Yeah. Like
something like that. And especially because the tornado was such a big CG bullshit moment that I was like, if you're going for the Nolan-esque down-to-earth style that The Dark Knight and all that was, why not make it something just like you said, like a conveyor belt or a log comes off really quick and he stands in the way and it hits the back of his head and you have these wood splinters fuck off and go all everywhere.
Sure.
Save him like that instead of a CG moment with a tornado,
and he just stands there all like peaceful, learn from me, son, learn from me, and the tornado just like whisks. I'm like, no, sorry,
fuck off.
you are
in a tornado.
You are in a tornado.
Have you seen
You are in
Twister?
a bunch of pain.
Yeah.
You are like shit's going on. You are
getting hit by fucking debris like
you
no
are not
other.
calm.
Yeah.
You are not calm in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
And it's all just for the moment. It's all for the visual
and
moment.
I'm sorry, I have to say this because I understand your love of pets, but fuck the dog. Fuck the dog. I'm sorry, but no.
But see, this is the thing. Send Clark for the dog. Because
Exactly.
the tornado's coming. It's kind of like, you can get the dog. I know you can get the dog because worst case scenario, you can hide and we can quote
pretend.
some bullshit and say, oh no, you found some cover.
Exactly.
I will look after your mum.
Do that.
Why does he go back for the dog? It's the dumbest thing.
So fucking problematic.
Anyway.
Moving on. All right. Let's start off with this. Where do you sit on this Lois Lane? Because as much as you talk about Christopher Reeve, Brandon Routh, Henry Cavill, you have to talk about Margot Kidder.
Sure.
And whoever
Kate Bosworth.
Kate Bosworth, thank you. And Amy Adams.
Yeah.
So for me, Lois Lane, casting Lois Lane is just as important as casting Superman.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. I would agree. I don't think they've done a particularly great job with her.
No.
I think she's fine. I don't think she has any of the kind of spunk.
Exactly.
I feel like Lois Lane we've always imagined Lois Lane as having a bit of...
She's gutsy, man.
Yeah.
Even Kate Bosworth did it. Anyway. Even Kate Bosworth was a bit more spunky. She did stuff that wasn't.
And it's not like
Lois, you're not meant to do that. She goes, yeah, well, I don't care.
I don't think, and I'm trying to avoid kind of that maybe a little bit outdated cliche of like the plucky female, like where it's like, oh, but she can stand up to the boys.
Yeah.
And so maybe they've avoided that to kind of avoid those comparisons because that is a pretty outdated kind of concept. Yeah. But at the same time, like,
but she
doesn't show any kind of attitude really at all.
Headstrong.
She's kind of just a blank slate, really.
And a boring one at that.
There's one bit where she does like the line about, if we're done measuring dicks, and the two captains are like, oh, we've got a live one. And I'm like, no.
Seriously? That's what you're going with?
Is that all it is? Because then a second later she says, where am I going to go tinkle? And I'm like,
there's a bucket in the corner, and I'm like,
did you just say tinkle? Did you just say tinkle?
For those of you who haven't seen this movie, the two scenes that Tyson just described are back to back against each other. So what you've just seen is Lois Lane in a nutshell, and it's just fucking pathetic. So now I fucking hate this Lois Lane, and on top of that, what happens in the next scene is that someone says to her, well, what am I meant to do? He goes, you can sleep there, you can tinkle in the corner, but don't go outside because it's -40. So what does she do?
She goes for a walk.
She goes outside.
Yeah.
And she's in this, like, it's not the biggest jacket. If you went outside, you're talking eyebrows are fucking freezing off your fucking face. So what she does is go out, take a camera, and take 2 seconds to go, oh, look, there's Clark Kent. And I'm like, oh God, stop.
Yeah, I don't, look, I'm not as passionately in the camp of hatred as perhaps you are.
I fucking am. And I like this camp. I'm going to set up a camp. Fire.
Sing stories.
Yeah. Bring back Margot.
Amy Adams sucks as Lois Lane.
Bring
Amy
back
Adams sucks.
Give me my Margot Kidder any day of the week.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
Sure.
The film doesn't care enough about her, so I don't care enough about her.
Exactly.
So by saying that she's just as important, the film doesn't treat her as importantly.
No,
so why, in the end, I'm like, well, I guess I don't care enough anyway. I think fucking the chick playing, not Fiero. What's the?
No, let's call it by her original name.
Well, I can't remember that now.
Ursa.
She was gold. Yeah, like, why not just use the actual Ursa? Why
not use Ursa? You've used Zod, and where's Non? Non was awesome.
Is he the?
Is he the big guy?
The huge
he's
one?
Totally the big guy.
Because I was like, which one is he when he's at home? Like, because Feora.
She was almost better flushed out than Lois.
I would agree because they actually give her the moments. Like, I actually believe her.
Yeah.
As a dedicated general who will do anything for the perseverance of her people.
Of her, she was scary. She's hella scary,
but she's understandable in a degree.
Yeah,
like I love the bit where Zod's talking about what happened to them, and it flashes to the shot of her watching Krypton explode,
right. and she
just
starts emoting. Yeah,
she's just got a tear, and Zod puts his hand on her shoulder.
That's right.
I'm like, well, fuck, this is like, where's this been? Like, you're actually,
but you're giving
suddenly I'm getting more heart and more kind of emotional connection
than the
to a side villain than I'm getting out of Lois Lane.
Fuck off.
Like, they did nothing with Lois. They really didn't do anything with her. They didn't give her a character to play.
No.
Like, I don't know.
It was badly written.
I don't
know
anything
really
about
bad.
this Lois Lane.
No.
Like, anything about her other than she likes Superman.
And if we're going to talk about that, let's talk about that. Where does this relationship just fucking come out of nowhere?
It's funny that they kiss. I don't think they should have kissed. I think this one, we should have just left it.
No, and save it for the next film.
Maybe next time. Yeah.
I don't like it. So that was one of...
I don't even need to see them get together. I reckon if you just start Batman v Superman and they have gotten together, I'd buy that.
You'd buy that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd rather that than what we got.
What did she say after the kiss? I didn't understand it, and I could not be fucked rewinding. She says something about... It's similar to the line that Sandra Bullock says.
I want that to be the tagline. What did she say? Because I can't be fucked rewinding. Yeah. What was that?
It was like similar to what Sandra Bullock says in Speed about the whole, I've heard relationships that start from height.
Yeah.
She says something like, it's all downhill after the first kiss or something.
That's
and
right.
then he says something.
We better base it on sex. Oh, no, that's Keanu.
That's Keanu. That's definitely not what Superman said. He said something, and I was like, oh, I can't be fucked.
Yeah. I don't remember. I think
because to me, I was just like, I don't buy this kiss at all.
No, because it was so out of the. Oh.
And I don't want to spend all the time. This is because it's easy to talk about the stuff we don't like. Than the
I
stuff
know
we do
we're
like.
getting to the end though. I'm going to save the things that I like.
The problem
for the
is everything I don't like is the last 50 minutes to an hour.
Sure.
There's nothing I like in that last hour. I don't think. No. I'd be hard pressed to find really anything.
Yeah, I got really
any of the stuff
really angry,
that I like
really
is in that first hour and 20 minutes or so.
K-cost.
So yeah, let's just make sure we've covered all that
right.
before, like all the good stuff, before we get to the stuff that really doesn't work.
All right. Well, I wanted to end it on a high note. I was trying my best to end it on a high note, but okay.
I think that we try. I like that the film tries to not update because it's not time dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Just to recontextualize the Jor-El mantra, you know what I mean, from the original, the message, that he left,
he was passing on,
and it's been they've updated it a few times in different graphic novels and stuff, and we've heard different versions of it, and I like that they've approximated it again in this, with some lines that I think are actually quite nice. I really like the what if a child aspired for something greater. I think that's really quite lovely.
Yeah.
And should be. I wish that was what this movie was about. Like, I wish that we had a Superman movie about a child that wanted to be greater.
Yeah.
And had the power to be greater, and how would he use it? As opposed to this kind of sad sack, like, I don't know. Dad told me not to.
I don't want to do this.
I don't want to. And I don't want... there are tornadoes there. I can't handle tornadoes. I get, like, PTSD when I'm around a tornado. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
Because that's where all the hope that we talk about, why we love this character, all that hopefulness and all that kind of, like, we cherish his victories with him because he's brave enough to do these things. That all comes from that statement, basically. Line. That is what you can build this film around. And I just don't think they do, but I'm glad that they feel like that they're trying to do that. I think the movie thinks that
they are trying, and I do agree with what you're saying. But unfortunately, to contrast that is you're talking about him talking when Russell Crowe comes back in
it's just before the first shot in the suit.
Yeah.
And
so he's talking about that.
Yeah. A little bit over that.
Yeah, and he's talking the fact that he has this. Okay. He's talking about choices and things like that, and you've got to make all these. You've been chosen and all this stuff, but it's going in contradiction with if the storyline of Clark is being that he is the first natural born child in centuries, to let this child have the choice, because when they dove in and all those Matrix style babies were in the water, right? Every one of those already had an assigned.
Yeah, it's predetermined
what they had.
Zod talks about it.
Exactly, and he wanted to create a son who has the choice.
Yeah,
and then comes in what you're talking about with you. You're going to be this. Clark's destiny has kind of already been chosen for him. You're going to be like a god to this, but you're going to lead them. But you have to choose to lead them. Complete contradictory of what, you know what I mean?
I get what you're saying.
But I know what you're talking about because that is what I've read and what I know Jor-El to be.
Yeah.
But because they've put in this new element of Krypton where everyone has their own assigned thing, I'm like, well, what the fuck,
So that's a really good example of the muddying of the thematic waters that we were talking about before. Because you have such a clear metaphor for choosing your own destiny,
which is beautiful.
And that's a big thing about what Superman is about. It's that whole, I love, and this is my favorite part of the original Jor-El speech, is the line about, they can be a great people. They just simply need someone to show them the way or whatever.
You got it right. You got it right. Yeah.
And I love that part of it. This whole idea of we can use this symbol to be the cause of the good thing that leads us to make the choices that benefit humanity or make us, and from the littlest level, just be a better person to save the world.
The human race.
Yeah, it's all degrees.
And not for you to do it, for you to lead them, to give them a torch to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right, because
of what they've tried to put in with this Matrix baby bullshit bathing codex skull.
It works. It works on a certain level. It works on but it doesn't. It kind of mixes it up with the Superman stuff.
Yeah. Which is where it comes back to me. If you're going to change it, if you're going to spin this Superman story into something that's completely different, that we have no idea, we've never seen this before, by all means. But what unfortunately you're doing is what you said, is muddying the waters. So you're having the original text mixed in with other stuff, and it's contradicting itself.
It is. Yeah, it is a little bit contradictory, which is a bit frustrating because, I mean, I assume the movie is under the impression that the Jor-El mantra is kind of the mission statement of the film, and I'm not sure it comes off as well in this sense, and also kind of lacks a little bit of the poetry. I know it's really hard to kind of recreate something, but there's a real knack for the words in that original one, and it's fucking Mario Puzo.
It is.
So
you're not going to get any better than the Godfather.
Goya, David S. Goya is no fucking Puzo. So you can't. It just doesn't have that. It just doesn't flow.
It's the regal. It's the you are forbidden to interfere with. It's that.
Maybe it is a certain sense of regalness to it. Yeah.
Because that's what he was. He was the scientist. He wasn't the fighter.
Yeah.
So that's where I come in.
I don't think it's terrible though.
No, it's not bad.
In time they will join you in the sun, in the some nice stuff there, but nice. It just doesn't have that picturesque poetry kind of sense to it.
Yeah. Can we just go back just a little bit?
Yeah.
How do you feel with the fact that the suit is already there? Just a quick tidbit.
Well, I mean,
because you're already gone, I'm gone by this point. That's the start of the massive tree of the Man of Steel just coming down and crashing, and I'm like, well, now this movie is just. Come on,
I don't think it's a terrible way to.
Because that not only that cements the fact that his father has picked for him what he is going to do.
Well, are we meant to assume? Okay, so
what else is the suit for?
I'm more confused as to why it has a cape than anything else. I think that's where I'm like,
because capes look rad.
Yeah, well,
but who has a cape on Krypton?
Tell you what, just to flash forward to the very last scene, if we are in a movie where Superman does not exist yet, who is he pretending to be when he has a red cape on and stands there like a superhero because he's pegged on the cape?
Oh, hang on a minute. Are you talking about
almost the very last shot of the film?
You're talking about the kid? What are you talking about?
When it flashes back to Junior Superman.
This is what I had
in front of the dog.
No, yep. So this was three of my main gripes that I had when I first saw this movie.
Yeah.
I was like, are you telling me that the kid in that trailer was supposed to be him? So that means that as a little kid, he already knew that he was going to have a red cape.
No, yeah, but I don't think that's the case. I think he was just playing superheroes like every kid does.
Yeah. So who?
But who was he playing?
So on different levels, that is just fucking stupid.
That's dumb.
That is so dumb.
Because, I mean, is there another define? Like, I don't know any kid in the world that would peg on a red cape and not say, "Look, Mum, I'm Superman."
Yeah.
So who is he pretending to be?
Exactly.
Because it's him, because it's a flashback. It's when Jonathan Kent, and she says, I wish he had seen me, and she was like, he did, and it flashes back to, I'm like, hang on, what?
Oh God.
Anyway. So yeah, I don't understand why there's a cape, because to me the cape was always just one of those things you deal with as in a superhero movie. They have a cape.
Yeah.
Batman's is kind of functional, and Batman Begins did a very good job of it because it made it like it was spelunking stuff, and so he could float and all that kind of stuff. It was like hang gliding,
memory,
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The Superman cape has always kind of just been, you just go with it.
I love it.
And it's great. It's fucking amazing. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
Because he's a superhero. He has a cape.
Yeah.
In this environment, it's really odd, and it makes no sense because they didn't do anything with a cape on Krypton. Right? Do you know what I mean? Like they treat because I get the suit, because the suit is like the undergarment to their battle armor. Mm-hmm. So, and it had the family crests on them.
They take off, like you see Zod take off his armor,
and he's left with his family crest.
Yeah.
I don't get why it's that color, because none of the other ones were that color.
No.
And I don't get why it has a red flowing cape on it, because obviously the cape was the material they used to wrap Clark when they put him in the pod when he escaped.
Yep.
It had the family crest on it.
Yep.
And so he used that material, and it became his cape. What is the purpose of the cape in this environment?
Who knows?
I don't know.
No one knows.
So in some ways I'm okay with the suit being there.
Yeah.
I think if it was just the undersuit and then the cape was something that came later.
From Mum?
Maybe from Diane Lane.
Yep.
Who I feel bad because we haven't mentioned, who's also very good in this. I think she's lovely. I think she's a lovely Martha.
Really good.
Martha!
Which is fucking ruined now forever.
Martha!
Forever and always.
Why did you say that? No! I can't wait to talk about that.
His mum is it's the same as his mum. Amy Adams, how the fuck did you get here?
I actually can't wait to talk about that, because I reckon that is a bee's dick away from a really great moment.
Are you being serious?
Yeah, I think they could have nailed that moment.
No.
And they unfortunately pushed it off the deep
Are
end.
you being serious, Tyson? There is no way that could have been any
I'll
good.
explain why
Right,
when we get to another point.
But yeah. But Diane Lane and
Diane
the
Lane's
cape.
great. Yeah, but something, because it spins around, and it's like, oh, look at that. Who's your tailor?
I will say, going off that, since we're talking about the suit, I'm going to compare because I have to. Because the tagline of the original movie was "You will believe a man can fly." Knowing that movie backwards, and knowing that what they had to do in order, if he couldn't fly, if they couldn't visibly show and pull off Christopher Reeve flying, the movie wouldn't have worked.
Yes,
they did it perfectly.
Yes, and they did it well enough for the time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
no, it was perfect. This movie is so CG'd up the arse that it's just, what is with the shakiness, and then we're trying to catch him? Like, I understand he's faster than a speeding bullet, but I don't like
that whole cinematic
don't.
technique that they're doing, where it's like documentary almost kind of style.
It's like when you hit a baseball, you're trying to see where the ball is, and there he is.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if it was first popularized by Battlestar Galactica, but that's where I remember being familiar with it.
Yeah.
And I remember it being quite effective in that, because you're watching a drama, like a fictional piece of television, that in some ways kind of evoked. It's different from shaky cam. It's not like it's not Born Identity shaky cam.
I don't mind it. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind it. I just don't like it to show off Superman flying. If we're going to see him fly for the first time and all of that stuff, which is great, I love that he.
Sure.
One of the things that I loved is he jumps.
It's like he learns how. Yeah.
Tall buildings in a single bound.
The leaping, which is obviously very traditional,
iconic and all that stuff. But then he flies, so you either get the non-shaky cam Battlestar Galactica style that we're talking about, or you're getting Henry Cavill looking straight in the camera, with arms out.
Sure. We get the occasional shot of those. I don't think they're particularly effective. Whenever he's really close up.
No, I don't like them.
But I don't mind the flying. I think I like what that scene is. I like what that scene thinks it is.
You're talking about when he
walks out and he does a few things and fails, and then Jor-El does a bit more talk, and then he musters up and takes off.
Takes off. Yeah.
I think if in a better movie and with maybe just a couple of better choices along the way, that would have been an extremely effective moment.
Yeah.
And so I try to acknowledge it as being, you know what, there's not much you could do differently about that moment. It's pretty great. Unfortunately, it's the stuff around it that kind of weakens the impact of that moment, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's a pretty great moment. I like the way it's like, I don't know what he's doing before he flies.
You like that? Do you like that?
I don't know what it. Well, because I like that that it takes strength and focus
for him to take off,
for him to fly.
Okay.
Like I like that it's a choice. It's not just a.
It's not just a.
Here we go.
Yeah.
It's something that he has to kind of focus up his energy and think about it, and he builds like an atmosphere around him, and then boom.
Okay.
I kind of dig it.
I like my Superman flying. Him just walking.
Sure.
Him if he can literally take off like without like. What comes to mind for me is all the for all the scenes in the original when he's talking to Lois on the balcony and he literally just lifts off like he thinks about.
Yeah, but maybe he gets to that level. Maybe it's
that's what I think that this is. That the scene that you just described is me. Oh, this is him learning.
Yeah,
he's still learning, which is going to segue beautifully into one of the scenes that I actually did like for what it showed, because I felt that it was still him learning, is when he is fighting the non-Ursa and those two in the small town. This is the start of the destruction, but I don't mind this. This is where I kind of give it lenience, because he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know these people. He doesn't know how strong everyone is, and he doesn't know the impact of what is going to happen around him.
Sure.
They didn't show that, but in my head, I'm like, no. He doesn't know. Sure. He's still learning. He literally got the cape yesterday, and he's.
It does all happen a little bit too quick.
It does, yeah. But I don't mind the small town, the small town fight, because he's only been Superman for a day. It does happen fast, but I'm okay with that. If it's going to happen fast, that's fine. But what needs to happen after is him realizing, or heaven forbid, a fucking Superman montage where he's like, "Oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this," which you get with Iron Man and things like that.
But
it shouldn't.
We maybe needed a bit of time to pass and him Supermaning about the joint for a bit.
Well, this comes into it again, which is he needs to have the realization of the global impact that he is going to have.
Yeah,
which is it can be from him, catching bank robbers, or sealing a volcano that's erupting. It needs to be on a global scale.
We can still have that distrust from the military and that kind of that element of the fear of the unknown and all that kind of stuff. It does.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that we want like parades in honouring Superman.
No. I don't need that.
It happens a lot in these kind of films. You can still keep that thematic kind of weight of the distrust of this character. Even just a little bit of time for him to live in that world.
Exactly.
Live with his powers. So that
realize putting together what Jonathan Kent said and what Jor-El said.
And then when he does sacrifice himself and say, no, I will go because I have to, it doesn't feel quite weight. So just like, oh, hey, I figured out I was a superhero yesterday. Oh, they're here for me. All right, I better go. It's cool. It's all good.
I'll go see a priest, and he'll go, yeah, you should go.
Oh, the priest. Oh, the priest.
He doesn't even do anything.
What is that scene?
It's a waste of fucking film. Is what that scene is.
Of all people.
Yep.
Like, how is that conversation not with his mother?
Exactly.
Or anybody with any significance to him?
Yeah.
Why is it?
Where
this
has it been
priest?
that Clark or Superman is Catholic?
Why? Yeah. If I don't understand what it's trying to imply.
Oh, I hate it.
Other than it's going for a really weak as piss Christ metaphor,
which I hate,
which I am not on board for at all, because you're not selling it in any way. I'm okay with Christ metaphors. I think some of them work very effectively.
Yeah, this one is very much very blatant. He is 33. You have a lot of things to do, and I'm fine with that. But
you can keep him kind of as
don't
just
have him go to a church, man.
Yeah, they can be subtext but by having him literally go to a priest and ask for the priest's advice, and for him to say, it's like he's never heard about the concept of trusting people before.
Yeah.
It's like this is this great wisdom. And I'm like,
seriously?
How long have you known anybody for? Have you ever watched a television show? Have you ever watched a movie? I'm sure you've watched some movies.
Yeah.
Like, this is a completely human response that you have lived in these people for. He's lived here as long as I've lived here.
Mm.
So he's as aware of humanity as I would be.
Mm. And you would
I'm
know
older, a little bit older,
who
but
to get advice from.
Yeah. It
wouldn't be a priest. It would be your mum, if anything.
Mum, or like, it's because, the problem is because they didn't want it to be Martha and they had nobody else. Because it's bad writing.
Why they didn't want it to be Martha?
Because I don't think
going to her and asking for that particular advice is a bit
maybe.
You need someone else's. So because they don't have the Lana Lang
because
relationship there,
they want that scene for whatever reason, but they've realized they don't have the character that can complete that scene.
Yeah.
So they've made it a priest. That's when someone says, "No, that scene needs to go because it's not genuine."
Yeah.
You've reverse engineered the emotional impact without considering your characters.
Yeah.
Get it gone. It's unnecessary. How about he just realizes on his own?
On his own. Exactly. Have a flying scene where he's not going as fast as humanly possible. A nice glide over looking at humanity living its life.
Maybe.
Rather,
how about he just sees like a nice moment between two humans.
Exactly.
While he's walking down the fucking IHOP.
Yeah.
And
or not even one human helping out another who both happen to be of different race.
Maybe. Sure.
It's a little bit too on the nose, but still, have that.
But that's, we're not fucking Hollywood writers.
No.
But, like, come up with the slightly less on the nose version of that, and you've got Bob your uncle. You don't need a priest. You don't need to have this weird character who just turns up, gives him the advice that apparently changes the entire plot of the film, and then fucks off.
And the priest's face when he goes, "Oh, I'm who they're looking for. I'm the alien." The priest's face goes, "Oh, I don't know what to do.
Oh, this guy's crazy.
Oh, I don't know what to do."
Yeah. Fuck. Anyway.
Tell me something you did like about this, Tys. Tell me something you did like about it.
I'm kind of out.
Oh, are you? Because I've got two things left on this movie, and they're
both bad.
They're about they're
about
the last hour.
Everything I've got left is in regards to the last hour. Okay. I want to start with Zod's message.
Go for it.
I feel like, speaking of reverse engineering things, I feel like that entire message is reverse engineered for a trailer.
Right.
I think...
You think it was written to pull people into the seats?
I think they were... Because, you think about it, the way that they've physically represented Zod...
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% certain, but I think you can go back and look at some of the initial teasers.
Oh.
Having Zod as just a weird disembodied voice and that weird, creepy, kind of pixelated... where you couldn't quite tell
what it
and he
is.
had the weird mask on.
Yeah, yeah.
To me, someone went, "Oh, that's going to look awesome in the trailer. Let's make sure we do that." Do you know what I mean? When really it's kind of dumb. Like, why is their technology so bad? Yet the audio quality is stunning. Like, it's perfect. Yet it's this weird pixel. It's like when you're watching like something streaming and it's like it's stuck in like 5 pixels before and things move through it.
That's so true.
It's because
they didn't want.
It's because they didn't want to. Because then you can build the mystery through a teaser trailer of what's Zod? What does he look like? We probably knew Michael Shannon was playing him at this point, but it's like, what's he going to look like? We don't even. We still don't know what he's going to look like.
That's so true.
Because I like a lot of what that message is. I actually think it would have been better.
Go on.
And I think maybe it's because it's. You know why I think it's better? It's because it's already happened. But you remember in the first one where Gene Hackman has a frequency that only Superman can hear?
Yeah. I love that.
Heaps better than this bullshit.
How good is that? I love that.
Yeah.
And all the dogs go nuts because it's on the dog frequency.
Because there should be something like that embedded in this message.
Hello, darling.
It should be, they should have that "you are not alone" stuff, and that he should have his message for everybody else. And then underneath it, you should just hear this. I know you can hear this.
I know you can
Joel,
hear this.
Kal-El.
Yes, I know who you are.
I'm here for you.
Yeah.
You need to show yourself.
You either come out or I start killing off the human race. Oh, the weight of that would have been huge.
Something like that. And, because I just don't... And the chick who's like, "It's in my phone." And I'm like, "It's in the RSS feeds." And I was like, "Oh, I know what they mean now," because we have a podcast. I know what RSS feeds are. So that was interesting. But, I just don't... It bums me out because I think the idea of that message is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the visual representation kind of could be cool if I wasn't being so cynical about its purposes.
Yeah.
And then the audio is so clean. I'm like, fuck this. This is all horseshit now. Like it's
yeah.
And you didn't do it right. It's yet another good idea.
But it's not thought through.
That someone didn't just go, oh, hey, on a second draft, maybe we should do this instead because it'd be a little bit more. But then we might be sitting here bitching about how they just copied the bit with Gene Hackman.
No, I'd rather that.
Maybe.
Did Zach not have a lot of time or something?
I feel like they had all the time in the world on this motherfucker.
Are we going to cut to?
Oh, I did have one more thing.
Go on. Give me something.
Because
nice.
it happened later, I liked the flashback to the bullies.
Oh, did you like that?
Yeah, I like that one. I don't like the dialogue afterwards. I feel like it ruins
the dialogue sucked, yeah. But I didn't... Because
we finally had some effective subtext, and then we just had to go and state and became text again.
Yeah.
Which is trust your audience. Like, I see a scene like that.
Treat them as adults, though.
I see Jonathan Kent at the end of it say, "Are you okay?" And he's like, they can't hurt me. No,
it's not.
That's not what I meant. It's not what I meant.
Yeah.
And
you're right.
That's all. That's it. The power of the scene is there. We see the hand that he'd squeezed the thing so hard to stop himself from hurting them.
Yep.
Done.
Just leave it.
Then there's another 30-second conversation where he has to go on and on, just in case dumb shit number 4 in the audience didn't quite get the metaphor.
Dumb shit number 4. Get the fuck out of my cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a good and bad thing I wanted to mention.
No, I did like that scene. I do remember that scene. Once again, K-Cost saving the fucking day.
K-Cost.
Seriously.
Hey, what's with...
Go on.
So, okay, Zod's here.
Zod's there?
It's all Zod-related stuff now for me.
Okay.
So, when he basically James Bond villains the shit out of this and just tells him what's happening, right? What his grand plan is.
Sorry, say that again?
When he James Bond villains him, right?
Yeah.
What are we dealing with here? Is he hallucinating? Is he dreaming? Is Zod telepathic?
I know what you're talking about.
Because all of a sudden...
You're talking about how he sees the Earth-changing machine come down and it all...
They have a big old grand conversation about stuff that he could not possibly know.
Yeah.
But he just passed out.
And he went into his mind? What the fuck happened
That's what I mean.
there? Yeah.
Is Zod telepathic?
No.
What?
Not in the books that I've read.
On? Dream sequences can't be exposition. Because that implies that he knew what the plan was all along.
Yeah, exactly.
He knew everything about Zod.
So
he
what
doesn't.
the fuck were you doing
What
there?
happened?
Yeah.
I was so confused.
I hated that scene. I hated it.
And then he's in the skulls and he's wearing the black suit, though.
He's wearing the black suit, but he's drowning in skulls.
He's drowning in skulls. I'm like, this is not for me. This is not my Superman.
What
this is
this
the moment
movie?
100% confirms this is not my Superman.
Exactly.
I do not need nightmare imagery of Superman drowning in skulls.
This is way too dark.
It's not at all what it should be.
No, not
but
at all.
I don't get it.
I don't get why it's in there.
Why can't we just... What are we doing?
But what are we saying to
someone
our
tell
audience?
me.
What is the point of this scene?
What is going on? Other than we need to dump a whole lot of exposition and we don't know how, so it's going to happen in a dream sequence hallucination.
You shouldn't do that.
You shouldn't do that, for one. Are we missing something? Are we missing some kind of did he upload a bunch of information to Superman's head? While he was passed out or something?
It's basically...
Is there Kryptonian technology that allows you to talk to somebody while they're sleeping?
But is there...
Do we miss something?
Is the reason for this to do the Bond villain thing? Is someone ticking a box? No. We have to have him tell him the plan of what's going to happen.
Yeah, because...
Why?
Because audiences won't get it. Don't you know?
Fucking hell,
if
man.
If you just let a plot...
This is the dumbest fucking thing in the world.
Do its thing.
In the world.
People won't understand.
So dumb. Very, very,
well,
very, very
the
dumb.
problem is because they didn't actually... It's not set up well enough. So if they just started doing all this stuff, terraforming and all that kind of stuff...
People are going to be going, what's happening?
People's like, what the fuck is going on?
Are they blowing up the Earth?
So we needed this scene.
No, but you had that from the...
But they painted themselves into a corner because they didn't do it effectively.
In the early enough scenes, exactly.
Early enough. And so they were like, shit, what are we going to do? We need to tell the people.
We have to remind people because it's been 2.5 hours since they've seen this fucking machine dig into the Earth and start terraforming. Oh, what's that? You even have a scientist guy, Toby Ziegler, who I forgot was in this.
Double dose of Toby Ziegler today.
Say that, it's terraforming. Just have that.
Yeah, there was... What was that?
I hated it.
There was more stuff in that conversation that was of importance, and it was like it wasn't just here's our plot. It was stuff more stuff about making the choice and what you've got to, what you're going to have to choose to, save your own people or save these humans and all that kind of stuff. But this is what is this
doing in here?
How does it get in? How does no one go, hey, but how is he doing this? Like, how did nobody at any point
I did
in the writers' room say that?
Or in the editing suite.
Are we just dumb? Are we just dumb? And we missed something? I would love to know.
Oh, if you know, write in. Or even if you are a fan of this film, write in. Please do. Okay. So this is my not my last, but the biggest thing that I have wrong with this film. The cataclysmic biggest thing.
Okay.
For start, it's the death and destruction and the amount of it. This comes back to what you were saying about the bombardment of all the stuff. This is the last scene of Superman versus Zod, and the level of destruction that is in this. Because I feel that what they did was just take it way past what should have happened.
Yep.
Yes, we've been up until this point. We've had a lot of superhero movies. We've seen a lot of bad guys and their death and destruction and all that stuff, But everyone knows the line. You cross that line, and you surpassed it heavily in this movie to the point where the 9/11 references were so in your face that you felt like throwing up. There were so many buildings coming down in Metropolis that Metropolis turned into a grey planet. There was so much shit around. So because of that, we get to this. And by this point, with the character of Superman, we need to see what he has. By this point, if you're going to with all the both father figures giving him the lessons, he needs to have become the character that he's going to be. If he's not going to be that, if he's not going to do that, then I understand. But we haven't seen him struggle. We haven't seen the struggle with him.
That's just how a movie works. Our character needs to grow.
He needs
to develop.
We need to see this growth.
He needs to achieve what we want him to achieve.
Yes.
Like, say all you like about, we were setting it up for, he's not the Superman that you all know and love yet. Is kind of not the point.
If you're going to do that, that's fine, but it's not the point. We've had
that's
the
your
lessons.
Act 2 to Act 3 crossover. That's not your end of a 2 hour and 20 minute movie.
This is the end of Act 3, exactly. Yeah. So instead of that, we get
Act 17 by this fucking point.
We get a punch for punch, which unfortunately no one still knows how to choreograph a Superman fight, which hurts me to this day.
No, every now and then they had moments where it was really good, where it just like they would punch and they'd go maybe like a meter or two backwards.
Yeah.
And I liked how the environment adapted to their strength. Like, so if they if they were trying to steady themselves on a bit of road, they would actually dig their feet into the asphalt, and stuff like that. But then every now and then it would be a punch, and that's it.
Down.
They'd go flying so far through the air that it's like comical.
Yeah,
and
it just pissed me off.
It didn't need to be that. It should be. I think I've spoken about this before. There should be that equalizing effect. of having two people of equal force. Means that it equalizes them. So instead of every punch sending them 3,000 kilometers, they kind of just go just a little bit.
Which I don't get with the Phantom Zone villains. I don't understand how Zod is as powerful as Superman. Sucking up the solar energy for 33 years is different from just appearing in 2 days and having that ability.
And this is,
like that's one of the holes. But
it's like he has like a tank that is like it got topped up within an hour and it's just lived at the top forever, as opposed to it being a constantly developing thing.
Exactly. So going from punch for punch, and then the writers and directors of this movie make a decision with this character that will forever put a mark on this movie and this universe, this DC universe that they've done. They put a mark on him for me. This is my viewing.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Superman kills someone.
Yeah.
He not only kills someone, and I'm not talking about a nice way of going. He breaks someone's neck.
Yeah, it's not
going to sleep and dying.
Yeah, it's no moving out of the way while what's his name, Big Dopey One, accidentally flies into a
Coca-Cola,
what looks like a bottomless pit.
Oh
or something.
yeah, sure.
Or when he twists Zod's arm and throws him in the thing.
It's not that.
It's not that. It's very different. It's a very violent. It's a very brutal act.
Yeah,
it's a very kind of visceral act.
And unfortunately, the screaming that Superman does, which I don't mind, but unfortunately, it doesn't. It doesn't make up for it. Unfortunately, and you're marking this Superman, and it goes against. Yeah. So if you're going to change it, if you're going to redirect, this is not the Superman that you know. I understand, but you haven't
This ain't
built...
your mama's Superman.
Yeah, you haven't built up that character for me to see that.
Yeah,
So
I think...
So what I'm taking from it is you don't know what this character's about. No, that's, for me, that's where this is coming
that's
from.
ultimately where I come from on it as well.
Yeah.
But I think on paper, some of the things that they're trying to do by making that choice would seem like pretty good choices. Because by saying, oh, hey, how about the reason why he's so adamant about preserving life is because he made the choice once to remove life.
Sure.
And the instant he made that choice, he realized it was the worst thing he could possibly do.
Yeah.
On paper, you might say, hey, that's not a bad idea.
That sounds great.
But I think, this is where I think we're very similar, is that what it means, though, is that you are no longer dealing with an iteration of Superman. You are dealing with a different character.
No, this is,
I'll use as an example. This might rub people the wrong way, but I'm actually going to, as an example, talk about a very similar thing in The Last Jedi.
Right.
The Luke Skywalker moment of weakness.
Yep.
Where he drew his lightsaber, instantly knew that he was never going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
But had to deal with the consequences of that for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what they were trying to do here.
Okay.
And that probably would have been a better way of handling it. Having him think for a second that that's the only option he has, being so close to making that decision, realizing he can't because he can never be that person. The choice gets made before he makes... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So his resolution to be better happens before he makes the bad choice, as opposed to having to live with the consequences of it afterwards. Because living with the consequences of it afterwards makes him a different character.
Yeah.
A completely different character.
Absolutely.
Superman, as we know it, and as it probably should exist in this relationship, you can have a grounded, real, kind of gritty Superman.
Sure. But he still has to be the light.
He would have made... That's it. He would have made that choice the instant before he physicalized it, realized that what he was going to do will be detrimental to who he has to be, and would have found a different way.
He has to be the bigger person.
Yeah.
He has to,
Yeah, we can... Like, the net breaking is hard because it's not like he can grab him by the neck and then go... Oh, no, I'm not going to do this. They could have found some other way of doing it.
But the thing is, for me, knowing his powers, he can fly straight the fuck up. Just grab him and fly up.
Well, or just, cover his fucking eyes. Like, it's,
there's so many things around that. But yes, I do agree with you.
So, yeah, I think on paper I understand exactly why they've done it.
Sure.
But I think it just, bottom line, it leaves us with a character that I don't want to see. I don't want that to be my Superman.
No.
And it was a choice that we have been dealing with, I think, since then, because it's the perfect encapsulation of what this universe is. It's taken characters that are about something, were always about a particular thing, and has warped that ideology to fit their very dark and moody and broody universe.
Yeah. Which it can't be.
Which I'm not on board for.
You can't have a universe impact the characters. It has to be the other way around.
But you
can have that if you want to do that, which is why I gave hilariously enough, I gave Batman vs Superman a chance to go, okay, well, now you clearly have the dark.
Yes.
Batman is the dark. He lives in the dark. He uses the dark for his advantage.
But see, Batman's dark has always been a very particular brand of dark, where it's not... Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not... You don't if I think the best version of Batman is the animated series Batman,
absolutely,
where he's not like this massively tortured, self-hating individual.
Yeah,
it's not to that extreme kind of like.
But this is where you have
the world is fucked and I'm gonna fucking bury it all. It's not like Rorschach levels.
Oh no.
So. I get what you're saying. Yes, there is darkness in Batman, but there's always a hopefulness in it.
Yes, exactly. You do get the dark.
There's a righteousness.
But what I was going to say, because you have Batman, you have that dark, so you need to contrast it with the light, and that's what they didn't do with Batman v Superman.
Yeah, not very well.
He wasn't light. There was no sun.
I think they tried to remedy a little bit, but bottom line, they're trying to adapt these characters to fit their vision of this universe, as opposed to letting the characters dictate the tone of their universe.
And because of the decision you made in Man of Steel, it's very hard to bring him into that light.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree. It's you can trace almost everything. I think everything that happens in this movie could potentially be, you could do a little bit of canon arranging to make it kind of adaptable to what the character should be, that moment I think is irredeemable past that point.
I like that.
Like you've got to live with the consequences of that, and unfortunately that leaves me with a character that I am not interested in.
Yeah.
And that's just not kind of what I'm up for. And that's that's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is.
It's the way the news goes.
Yeah. The only other thing I want to mention is just it's not a dig at Zack Snyder, but I think it's just something that I think he suffers from a lot. And his best movies know how to balance this a little bit better. Is that when you get to a point, I found myself physically overwhelmed by the last 40 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
Or so.
Physically overwhelmed.
Like to a degree.
So too much.
It's too much, too overstimulated.
Yeah.
There's too much going on. There's too much destruction. There's too much. And it just reminded me of that idea that what makes these kind of movies so effective are the special moments. The moments you look at and go, oh, remember that bit where this happens. So everything sits at a certain level, and then you pick your moments to turn it up to 10. Unfortunately, when everything is at 10,
you can't.
Nothing is 10. When everything is 10, you're actually resetting it at 0.
Yeah.
If everything is special, nothing is special.
Cancelling it all out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so true. Yeah.
And so I end up watching 40 minutes of just what feels like just noise.
Yeah.
Like someone has taken my favorite album and turned it to max and forced me to just deal with it.
So it's at a level where you kind of have to block it out.
Yeah, that's how it feels watching that.
Yeah.
I think, and so you can't acknowledge any particular moments of
nothing stands out
of being great moments of heroic superhuman strength,
that is so
or
true.
Great moments of like, oh, he just managed to escape this little moment, or that was a great little turnaround and he used Zod's own powers against him in that one little bit.
Yeah,
it's just all there all the time.
Yeah,
and so how can you possibly take any stock of that? It just ends up being noise.
That's so true.
And I think that's a big problem with this whole finale.
With this film.
Yeah.
Well, the one last thing, and I made sure it was the last thing that I had to say was on an overall look of this thing, it makes me sad because of if there is a kid out there who, if this is their first watch of what Superman is going to be, then unfortunately they're going to miss out on just having that beautiful moral compass that what the character of Superman is supposed to be.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's Superman is that character that makes you ask yourself those questions.
Yeah.
Teaches you about certain kind of values.
Yeah.
And as kind of like cheap as it is, some of the Superman memories that I have are like the cartoon ones where it's like, remember kids, don't do blah 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 blah.
Yeah, it has a moral what are they called? Like a Captain Planet thing at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what was his use as a character. They were able to kids trusted him.
Yeah.
For being that person who would say, like, and some of it's pretty sus. Like you look at some of those comics from the olden days, and it's like, it's him, beating up some Nazis and being like, "Hey kids,
no, but it was the time.
Go and punch a Nazi."
It was the time.
Germans are just the worst, They were the worst. But it's like, because kids trusted him to be the kind of the compass of that, the moral compass.
Yeah.
Whereas now, what is he? What is he other than just this cranky, sad
guy that has all
superhero?
the powers in the world, but for some reason doesn't know how to control them?
We have them. We have that hero.
We have tons of those. That is the incredible fucking Hulk. Yeah. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
But even now, today, through my day-to-day, I'll go, if you had Superman powers, you would you be doing this? Like, would Superman do this? No, he wouldn't. He would take the high ground. Take the high ground, Nick. So it makes me sad.
I feel you, man.
But that's
feel
it.
You.
But we did it.
We did do it. It's
Man of Steel,
the next
people.
one, the next Superman movie we talk about. We got to make sure it's one that we really like.
Oh yeah, I think it should be. Oh no, I don't. I'm not going to guess actually.
No, we'll leave it.
We'll leave it.
I've got a couple of ideas for what the next one should be. Actually.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, that's going to wrap up our conversation on what's it called? Man of Steel. 2013's Man of Steel.
Man of Steel,
which is going to bring us very quickly to our next segment, Nicholas.
Oh yeah, we'll have to do it really quietly.
We call this one. which is our segment where we take a look at some Australian streaming services and give you a bit of a heads up of what you can watch.
Yeah.
Because it's never quite as exciting as some of the choices that you have in American streaming services.
That's so true.
But we do what we can to make sure that there's always something worth watching.
We try and have a look anyway.
We try. Have you got something yet, Nick?
I haven't got anything yet.
Yeah,
I'm trying my best.
I'll do one for us then. I'm going to recommend a film that I have only seen the one time.
Oh, yeah.
But I loved it sick, and I'm almost afraid to go back to it in case it doesn't have the same
I love
effect.
Those.
It's a 2006 film called The Fountain. It might be the first Aronofsky film I actually watched.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw this before I saw Requiem. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Nice one.
2006 though? No, probably not. I must have seen Requiem before this. But it was very early Aronofsky for me, and
yeah, fair deal.
I think it kind of cemented.
I remember it being just amazing.
Yeah, my kind of view of him being one of those directors, and I'm like, yeah, I think you're kind of my bag.
Yeah.
I think I'm really gonna dig what you're putting out there.
I feel you.
It's a bizarre experience. It crosses time zones and universes. It's a love story. It's a meditation on existence. It's got some of the most crazy visual elements
in the
I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting Hugh Jackman performance. Rachel Weisz as well.
He can do it. He can bring it if he wants to.
Yeah, I agree. Hugh Jackman. I'm a big fan of Hugh.
Yeah.
He's bad when he's bad, but he's
bad when he's bad.
Yeah,
he is
when
bad
he nails
when
it. He's really something else.
That's true.
And so if you haven't seen this and you're in the mood for something maybe a little trippy, maybe a little kind of like makes you reflect on existence and of a whole at the end of it, and maybe you kind of want to have some deep, metaphysical
it's
conversations on the meaning of life with your friend afterwards. I recommend The Fountain, which is streaming on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime's picking up its game lately. It's getting a lot of
primey.
Yeah, it's got a lot more cool stuff, and it's still really cheap, so it's almost worthwhile now.
I should get it.
It's I think it's only like $4.99 a month.
Yeah.
So it's getting to a point where it's definitely worthwhile, especially if you
nice.
like bullshit, weird '90s movies and real trashy horror, because they are loaded up with that stuff.
Why can't we get some good things? I want Hulu.
Hulu
I've looked into Hulu.
Do you know what?
I want Hulu.
American Amazon Prime is out of control.
Is it
good.
really?
It's so good.
Why? We have an Amazon store. Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Okay.
I don't understand.
All right. Well, I'm going to go. I watched this a while ago, and I remember it being a good time. I know not a lot of people would have liked it, but I liked it.
Yeah.
It's on Stan. It's Behind the Candelabra.
Oh, I never watched it.
Never watched it?
No.
Steven Soderbergh directing, and it's the chronological of the 6-year romance between Liberace and his lover, who's played by Michael Douglas, who does one of the performances that you need to see. Like, it's Michael Douglas just coming out of left field.
Yeah, I like Michael Douglas a lot, and I find that odd casting. And I
watched that ants thing.
Oh, isn't it great?
You played the ants thing in last episode.
Yeah. I chucked it in there.
That was gold. But yeah, Michael Douglas playing Liberace is you need to see it. It's amazing.
I would love to see it.
Oh my god! And Matt Damon just coming in as well and doing this thing. Also, one of my favorite performances in this was Rob Lowe.
Oh, I love Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe, like plastic surgery to the point where he can't move his face. He's so done up, and I'm like, Jesus, this is full on. But yeah, Behind the Candelabra. It was a good watch just for the. I don't know a lot about Liberace, so it was a bit of a learning curve for me.
Is it kind of comedic in tone? Or
absolutely. Yeah, it's not serious. Okay. It's not serious at all. There are so many great moments and one-liners in this thing. One of my.
So it's a bit of a lighter.
It's a lighter one
biopic.
But yeah, I think it goes the way of Blow. Not that Blow was a comedy. But it goes the rise is really high, and then it just, because it follows Matt Damon's storyline with him, that it kind of hits the bottom and which really bottoms out, which is it's a good movie. So cool. Behind the Candelabra on Stan.
Excellent.
Stanage.
Well, that's going to wrap us up, Nicholas.
Gang.
Before we get out of here, why don't you tell people where they can find us?
Well, people, if you would like to follow us on social media, all you have to do is look up Nick Tyson Videotape. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We are on...
Just send us a message on Facebook, right on our wall.
Go and do it.
Tweet at us.
Tell us what to do.
Hashtag Hashtag Man of Steel.
Tyson just wants to chuck in random words. He's playing word association.
Buzzwords.
Hashtag and all that stuff.
Insta.
LOL.
Lol.
Now we'll show you my age.
Snapchat.
Oh, don't Snapchat us. We don't have Snapchat. We're too old for that shit.
No, what is that garbage?
Yeah. But yeah, if you would like to maybe write us a letter, you can email us. Not that people write letters anymore. Email us at Nick Tyson Videotape.
You can handwrite a letter, scan it,
you
and
can
then
scan
email.
it, yeah, at nicktysonvideotape@gmail.com.
Yes.
But other than that, rate, review, share, like us, do all of those things.
And
if you
subscribe.
are liking if you are liking what you hear, because if you do that, then chances are we'll get a little bit big. I'm not saying we're going to get it big as other podcasts, but hey,
maybe just a little bit.
maybe just a little bit bigger,
Maybe a little bit,
to the point where we can pay someone and have them edit instead of Tyson doing it. But Tyson's very much a man of he likes to do it.
Perfectionist.
Which is
That's not
to be
true at
honest.
all.
No,
No.
it's to be honest, I like it because I know what I'm up for. I know Tyson isn't going to put that in and make Nick sound like a douche when he doesn't when he forgets things.
Yeah, I've stopped doing that now. If we
Yeah,
sound
no,
like
it's
a douche, we're just stuck
You're
sounding
letting
like
it
a
go
douche now.
again. He doesn't have the time. But yeah, that's it, ladies and gentlemen.
What are we doing next week, Nick?
Oh, next
I already forgot
week
what we picked.
we are packed.
What we packed.
Did you
I
go
forgot-
to
I
New
forgot what we
Zealand?
packed,
New
mate.
Zealand.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
That was gold. We are.
What did we pick?
We are doing. Sorry, 2 seconds. I've forgotten the name of it.
What?
Paul Rudd.
Oh, we are doing, yes, great film.
Because the week after we're going to get very serious
with some Oscar
talk, yeah, which is amazing, and I can't wait for the Oscars. By the way, is my Super Bowl. I love it. I love it. You take the day off, don't you?
Yeah.
You take the day.
We've got a lot of movies to watch before then.
We
We've got
do.
a bunch. God,
That's all right. We can do it. We can do it. But we're gonna bring it into a lighter tone. We're gonna do
1 week of a nice light tone.
A light tone. We're gonna do a comedy, which is very rare for
we
us.
don't do many flat out comedies.
We don't do many. Well, it's too bad. We don't want to be going. Oh, how good's this bit?
Yeah, that bit was real funny.
How good was that?
Yeah, I like that bit.
Yeah, that was funny. They talked about dicks.
Yeah.
Fuck off. We're not that. But instead, we're going to be doing.
Dicks are funny.
What is it called?
We're doing Role Models.
Role Models. Thank
2008's Role Model. I think it's 2008.
I love this movie.
Paul Rudd,
Me
Sean
and my
Williams,
wife watch this
Scott.
movie at least, I think, 3 times a year or twice a year.
McLovin.
It has a lot of Kiss references, which I love. I love Kiss.
The Kiss references.
Yeah.
It's got Jane.
Oh,
Jane Levy?
Jane. No. Oh my God. We suck as a
Jane
movie
Austen.
podcast. Seriously? Jane Austen? Is that who you're going with?
Jane Fonda.
No, not Jane Fonda.
Jane.
Come on.
As in Tarzan and Jane.
No.
I can't think of any more
Oh, for
Janes.
fuck's sake.
I'm out of Janes.
We suck, man.
Yeah, you know the one, the tall one from Glee.
That's the one. But don't say
Jane-
she's from Glee because she's from
Yeah, from the
Best in Show
Best
and
in
all
Show
those
gang.
things.
Yeah.
People are yelling down the mic at us.
their
Jane,
own
their own
microphones.
mic- their own
Yeah,
microphones.
They bought a microphone just so they could yell in it
And
at
in
us.
3,
How have you not found this
2,
yet?
1, because
Do you even IMDb?
Jane Lynch.
Jane Lynch.
Fucking hell.
God.
That took forever.
So that's going to be really fun. Tune in for that. If you do want to watch it before we have our discussion,
Yeah.
if you
Is it
don't,
on?
it is available to stream. It's available to stream on Amazon Prime, so you can watch it there.
Please watch it. It's
Or
fucking
you can just
gold.
rent it off the iTunes store.
Exactly.
It's not
You
too
have no
expensive
reason
there.
not to watch it. It's not a hard watch. Just
but
watch
if you
it.
like every other human being, you probably bought it when it was on special at JB Hi-Fi for $6.95.
That's what I did.
$6.98 on DVD, which I did as well.
Exactly.
So we'll see you next week,
Gang,
folks.
it's been fun.
It has been fun. That was our 51st episode. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Tyson.
birthday, Nick Tyson Videotape.
Yep.
Don't
Don't watch Man of Steel. Just don't watch it.
I think you can watch it. You can watch it.
You know what?
Watch it and join in the conversation.
You know what? Watch it and write in and tell us what we
Yeah,
missed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll see you all next week.
Next week, gang.
Bye, Nick.
Bye, Tyson.
Bye.
Bye.